Let's see if it works this time. If not, I'm going to go onto my computer and try this. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. Sorry about that. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but we are here. So today, as I was saying, I want to talk about this pin message. I want to talk about fonts. Now, interesting enough, fonts became a big thing politically when it was Marco Rubio, I believe it was Marco Rubio, saying, quote unquote, no more woke fonts. Wanted to switch fonts from Calibri to Times New Roman. Apparently, Calibri being a font that's easier to read, it became a whole thing, which is woke, I guess. I don't want to get into that. Rather, Freemasonry, we produce a ton of written documentation. The one that most members will be familiar with will be the Lodge Summons, which I would say 90% of Masons in 2025 get the information, get the Lodge Summons electronically. Some still receive it via mail. On top of that, we get our content. We also produce minutes, which in theory should last forever and they should be readable today, tomorrow, 100 years from now. And I know this because I've read minutes that are 100 years old. We produce correspondence, letters. We produce a ton of different things. And throughout all of that, I think it's important that we think about the type of, not just fonts we're using per se, but the type of formats we're using, the way that we are formatting our written documents. Because you want to remember these things, even a summons, it's meant for posterity. It's meant to be around for years and years, decades, even centuries. So we want to think about, are we using the best type of font? Are we using the best type of format? Are we using the best medium through which to record all of these items, whether it be to take the lodge minutes, to produce a summons, to produce a letter, to produce any other type of lodge correspondence, documentation, historical record that we need. Even something like your dues cards. What type of font are you using on your dues card? All that stuff matters a lot. Well, Nigerian Nightmare, they usually don't make Masons on site. It has happened in the past, but it's incredibly rare, so I highly question that. Hannah Derrick says hello. Hello, Hannah. Thank you for being here. I think you might be new to the stream. Please hit like and subscribe if you are new. Let me know how you're doing, if there's anything that you want to talk about. Scuff. Well, you shouldn't be doing that because you don't know me. You know me through YouTube. That doesn't mean, it's not the same thing as knowing me personally. But I highly question what you are saying. I'm not going to lie to you. Live on Luck. Welcome. Are you new to the stream? I think you might be. Live. I hope you like and subscribe. And let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. The first hour, we just hang out and chat about whatever. The second hour, we talk about specific topics. Today, Masonry and fonts, the best type of font we can use for our written documents and documentation. Well, there you go, Dave. Thank you so much for that. Please hit like and subscribe. Let's give it a bit of time though. First hour, let's wait to see who joins. Actually, interesting, Garamond. Why do you say Garamond? Because that has been a font that's been recommended to me. He may have. I don't know anything about the terrorist, so I don't know anything about Bondi Beach other than it was an absolute tragedy. Afternoon, brother Michael Moore. I hope that you are doing well as always. Thank you so much for being here. Well, your lodge should be accepting homosexuals. They're not a legitimate Masonic lodge if they're not, because being homosexual has nothing to do with any of the other requirements to be a Mason. Dave, what do I think of the Illuminati? Not much. I don't think they exist anymore. I know that they were founded in 1777, but they really died off by the early 19th century, the early 20th century. So no longer really relevant. Every now and then somebody will get, decide I'm gonna bring back the Illuminati for whatever reason. They decide they really want to. They try it, it doesn't work. The Illuminati is really not relevant to anybody's life, Masonic or otherwise, in my humble opinion. My brother Moore, do you have any thoughts on Masonic fonts? Again, I'm going to start talking about it the first hour in, or after the first hour. But do you have any thoughts on the best type of font to use for either the Lodge Minutes, the Lodge Summons, Lodge Correspondence? What are your thoughts? Well, Mr. Whale, I'll take it. Please hit like and subscribe. And consider doing a super chat. It's 99 cents. I don't know if I have that deep of a voice, and I've always thought my voice was a little bit higher pitched and nasally, to be honest. Well, Baphomet, I don't know. I don't know anything about Baphomet, because Freemasons do not worship Baphomet, despite what some people claim. Freemasonry has nothing to do with Baphomet. Hello, Sergen Daduk. Hello, Lillian. Please hit that like and subscribe button. I am from Canada. Born and raised in Winnipeg. Currently live in Windsor, Ontario. Greatest country in the world is Canada. Yes, I do have an outstanding cranium indeed. I don't like to brag, but my cranium is pretty outstanding. Okay, I've been to Phoenix, Arizona. It's a great place. I flew in there and then traveled to Nogales, Arizona, and then Nogales, Mexico for some special Masonic events. It was a blast. It was beautiful. It was very, very awesome. So yeah. Dave Gawa, my assumption is you're going to say it was some type of false flag 9/11. For the record, I don't buy that. I think it was exactly what we think it was, which is a terrorist attack by Al-Qaeda. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people scamming on the internet who use the term Illuminati to scam people into thinking it really exists. It's unfortunate, but it's just part of it. It just happens. That's why we do these streams, to talk to people about what Freemasonry means, what it is and what it is not. In this case, it is not the Illuminati. Welcome from Russia. Thank you, Saw. There's actually a lot of really cool Freemasonry in Russia. It's something I'm hoping to learn more about. I've got some brothers who've spent some time with Russian Masons. It's a really cool history. Dave Gawa, what is my source of information? I would say common sense is my source of information on this one. By the way, thank you to everybody once again for 3,000 subs. That is absolutely awesome. I'm actually currently at 3,041 subs. So thank you for making that possible. Let's keep on going. Let's keep on growing it. Cheers, Beyond Ether. I got a big head, I know, but you can still hit like and subscribe. So live on Luck, you have to be really careful with videos online for a couple of reasons. First, it's very possible that the people that are making the videos are just lying and just making stuff up. It's also very possible that the people on the videos joined a clandestine lodge. So they may, clandestine meaning counterfeit or fake. So they may have joined a organization believing it to be Masonic because they're told it's Masonic, see that they're worshiping the devil, whatever it is, and then assume that that represents Freemasonry as a whole, as opposed to what it actually represents, which is one particular group that just took the name Masonic and started to do their own thing. I can tell you, I've been a Mason for about 20 years. I've attended over 1,000 Masonic events. I've attended them in North America, South America, Asia, Europe. At no point have I seen anything that would indicate Satanism or, what do you say there? I've never seen anything that indicate any satanic ties or rituals for whatever it's worth. So it's not something I've ever seen. And I guess you can, take my word for it or not, but be very hesitant as to what you see online and what you see on the internet, is what I would say to that. What, according to you, is the biggest secret you know they're hiding from us? Well, Freemasonry doesn't have secrets. Freemasonry has private information, and none of them are that big, right? The reason I don't use the term secret but use the term private is because for a lot of people, secret implies something more nefarious, which you need to be really careful about. So, for example, Dave Gawa, if I were to ask you to put your banking information or your social security number or your social insurance number on the stream, I'm assuming you would say no. And you should say no. Not because that information is secret, because that information is private. There's a valid reason for you to want to maintain the privacy of that information. Freemasonry, it's the same thing. We have private information, and the reason we keep our information private when it comes to, for example, the modes of recognition is because it's a way to maintain the bonds of brotherhood between past, current, and future generations. The example I've used a million times, if you had a family recipe, Dave Gawa, if you had a family recipe and it was passed on from your grandparents to your parents to you, you want to pass it down to your kids, you're not going to share the family recipe on social media. Not because it's a secret recipe, but because it's a private recipe. And maintaining the privacy of that recipe is how you maintain the bonds of brotherhood. The bonds between your family generations. Freemasonry is the same thing. Our secrets, quote unquote, which are really just the modes of recognition, by maintaining the privacy of them, it allows us to maintain the bonds of brotherhood between past, current, and future generations of Masons. Can Freemasonry even be copyrighted? That's an interesting question. I mean, certainly most grand lodges actually have trademarked or copyrighted the square and compass symbol. So most have that trademarked. Could the minutes be copyrighted? Could the summons be copyrighted? I have no idea. I mean, also from an enforcement perspective, it's really hard to enforce I don't even know what you'd be enforcing exactly. Put it this way, I've seen variations of the square and compass symbol used. I've never heard of any actions being taken to sue anybody for trademark infringement or for copyright infringement. And when it comes to minutes, summons, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it would work, but it's interesting to think about. In Freemasonry, you're allowed to follow. Well, in Freemasonry, you're expected to follow your own religion, live on lock, because Freemasonry is not in and of itself a religion. So you have to believe in a supreme being. The nature of that supreme being is up to you. So we have, for example, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, both Catholic and Protestant, Indigenous, Hindu, Sikh, Freemasons, and they're all kind of free, and you could use the term free to or expected to follow their own religious beliefs. Freemasonry is not meant as a substitute for religion, nor should it be. Hello, Rion. Good to see you as well. Thank you for being here. I don't know, Dave Gawa. He might be. I mean, obviously James Bond isn't real, but maybe the author was a Freemason? I'm not sure. I forget the name of the author of the Freemason books. It was created by an author, Ian Fleming. Okay, so it looks like Ian Fleming was not a Freemason. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but none that I know of. It's certainly possible there are some actors who have been Freemasons. Actually, hold on one second. I do think, yes, I was right. I double checked it. the Freemasons Hall in London, UGLE, was used as a filming location in the James Bond movie Spectre. The specific part of the building used for filming was the Sussex Corridor. So there you go. The movie, so Spectre, the James Bond movie from 2015, was used. So in the 2015 James Bond movie Spectre, Freemasons Hall was used as a filming location. I thought I read that somewhere. I just forgot. So yeah, so there is a connection between James Bond and Freemasonry. Ian Fleming's father was a Freemason, Brother Michael Moore. Very cool. Was Sean Connery a Freemason? There is no apparently Sean Connery is not a Freemason. I didn't think he was. There is no CEO of Freemasonry, right? Freemasonry is jurisdictional. We have grand masters, but those are not CEOs for Freemasonry as a whole. They are rather responsible for Freemasonry in their particular jurisdiction, whether it be Ontario, Michigan, whatever it might be. That is where they find responsibility for being a Freemason. Like, there is no CEO of Freemasonry in a global sense. There's Grand Masters of different jurisdictions that govern Freemasonry in that jurisdiction. So in Ontario, we have the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ontario. He exists and is a Grand Master in Ontario, but he doesn't get to set rules outside of Ontario, if that makes any sense. We do not hunt. Freemasonry welcomes men of all different backgrounds, ethnicities, races, languages. I've sat with many Black Freemasons, European, white, Indigenous, Asian. They're all welcome to be part of Freemasonry. Daily Rocket. What I am is looking for people to give me a like and subscribe, so please do so. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. We're going to be talking, like I said, about an hour in about Masonic fonts, more particularly the best type of font to use when producing our records, as well as our correspondence. Well, gooey, that's what happens when you eat jalapenos, I guess. Well, there's no drugs in Freemasonry. I mean, I'm sure that there are many Freemasons who engage in drugs. I don't personally, but I've never, there's no drugs at a Masonic meeting, that's for sure. What Masons are doing on their private life outside of Freemasonry, I can't speak to. Alcohol, it depends on the lodge. There are some places and some jurisdictions where it's actually alcohol is not allowed in a Masonic lodge building under any circumstances. There are others where it is. But in any event, it's important that Freemasons always practice temperance when consuming alcohol. But it just depends on the lodge, right? But I've never seen any drugs consumed in a Masonic building, nor should we be doing so. And alcohol, if it's consumed at all, it's being consumed during a banquet or during refreshment or some type of special event like that. I've never seen any hazings. I've been a Mason for 20 years. Outside of my own initiation, as well as everything else I've seen, I've never seen any hazing. If they are engaging in hazing, that's not cool, and they should be reported to the Grand Lodge, because we should not be engaging in any type of hazings, period, under any circumstances. Joe Does Vids. Hello, Joe Does Vids. Please hit like and subscribe. No worries, Gooey. Please hit like and subscribe as well. And thank you everybody who's been supporting the channel. It's been great to see the growth that we've had. And also there's a danger of, if you have heard of Masonic hazings, it could be a clandestine lodge pretending to be Masonic, engaging in hazing, and then giving all of Freemasonry a bad name. So you need to be really careful of that as well. I'm not sure what you mean, did I receive energy during the initiation? I don't know if I received energy. I wouldn't use that term. Certainly, when I was done, I felt like I'd accomplished something or joined something important, for whatever it's worth. There you go. As Prentice says, no hazing during a regular lodge. Again, that's not to say there aren't clandestine lodges pretending to be Masonic, engaging in hazing. That actually has happened in the past, I'm aware of. But I've never seen any hazing in all of my 20 years of being a Freemason. Um, Chess and Freemasonry aren't connected. No, although I have heard of Masonic chess sets, Brother Michael Moore, interestingly enough, where the king is the worshipful master, the queen is the IPM, the pawns are entered apprentices. I have heard of that in the past, so I've never actually seen one, like in my own, never seen one in person, but I've heard of Masons creating those chess sets. The, bishops, if I recall correctly, the bishops were the wardens, the knights were the deacons, the rooks or the castles, whatever they're called, were the stewards, something to that effect. Which would actually make a really good gift for any Masons who like to play chess, by the way. Red Plant Gaming calls me Jewish. I am not. Well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Actually, I never say what I am because I don't want to start making ethnicity seem important. What I will say is Freemasonry welcomes men of all different faiths and ethnicities, including Jewish members. Is Magnus Carlsen a Freemason? I don't know. I don't think so. He could be. I've never heard one way or the other. RVVV. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump personally. I cannot speak to his personal life. Politically, though, not a big fan of him. That's what I'll say. I know, but my dream, Noodle on Wheels, is you hit the like and subscribe button. So I hope you'll do so. What do you think of Masons? I mean, I'm not a big fan of that. Certainly, I'm not a big fan of people wearing the ring and pretending they're a Mason. But that's also why I always tell Freemasons, thank you, Prentice Davis, you need to make sure that just because somebody's wearing a Masonic ring or a Masonic t-shirt or whatever it is, you don't automatically assume they're a Freemason. You still have a responsibility to engage in, your due diligence. Because sometimes people will buy the rings because they like the design without, stopping to think about what it represents or even knowing what it represents. Sometimes they'll get them from family members or friends, or, their grandfather might have given them the ring. Sometimes they won't even tell them what it is. They got it in a will or whatever it is, and they choose to wear it. So don't always assume that just because someone is wearing a Masonic ring, that they're automatically a Freemason. That's not how it works. You still need to do your due diligence. I mean, I went to a pawn shop. I was looking for Masonic rings out of curiosity, and the person in the pawn shop didn't have any rings that were, given to him or sold to him, but he had a drawer full of these mass-produced rings with a square and compass on it. And he said he keeps them because he usually sells 3 or 4 a week because people just like the design and like to wear them. So you have to be really careful. Noodle, you don't have to be sorry. Just hit the like and subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. So the KKK is not sponsored by Freemasonry. It is unfortunate that historically there were KKK members who were Freemasons, like Nathaniel Bedford Forrest, I think, is the example most people think of. But they're separate organizations. To me, Freemasonry and the KKK are at complete opposite ends of belief and belief systems. Freemasonry, at its core, is about universality, inclusiveness, kindness, understanding. The KKK is about the opposite of that. So, again, unfortunately, there are people who didn't understand Masonic teachings properly and joined both. But, I mean, Freemasonry started centuries before the KKK was ever even a thing. And it will, exist centuries after the KKK goes the way of the dinosaur, which the sooner the better, in my opinion. Hello, Martha Clementi, please hit like and subscribe. Bro is so cool. I like to think I'm cool. Lassie, please hit like and subscribe. They are putting AI into everything. You know, I'm Chris5572. Please hit like and subscribe. I'm one of the few people who I'm not that afraid of AI. I tend to be pretty technologically sanguine or even technologically positive. It's one of those things where I understand the concern. I understand why people would be concerned and afraid. But to me, technology's been nothing but good to me. It's been nothing but good to my family, whether it be medical, technological advancements, whether it be what I'm allowed to do through this and through my work, whatever it might be, it's been incredible. And so for me, it's one of those things where knocking AI, it's like if technology's been nothing but good to me, who am I to judge it or be afraid of it? I think we'll find a way to make it work. At least I hope we do. Masons are gutless, Masons are deceitful and underhanded. Julia Roberts, please hit like and subscribe. All the world's a stage. I used to know that quote. Now I can't think of it anymore. But Shakespeare, indeed. Well, Mark, I'm here. I don't think I'm gutless. I don't think I'm deceitful. I don't think I'm underhanded. But I guess, of course, I would say that. So I guess you have to take me however you so choose. I also don't think I'm full of poop. But again, you're welcome to think whatever you so choose. Well, you shouldn't be doing that, Dave. It sounds to me like you got scammed by a clandestine lodge. No legitimate Masonic lodge. I actually talked about this on a stream before. No legitimate Masonic lodge should ever be taking your money before, um, like the money should be the last thing. The first thing should be getting to know you, talking to you, finding you sponsors, having a vote. Um, reading out your application. The money, you should not be paying anybody any money until you're at your initiation and just before you join. It should be the last thing that takes place before you join, once it's already been confirmed that you're going to be made a member. If anybody claiming to be a Mason asks for your money up front or before anything else has taken place, they are scamming you. And you need to be incredibly careful about that. So never give the money ahead of time. Because honestly, I have no idea who can refund you. It sounds to me like you were taken in by a scam, and usually those things are not going to refund you your money. Um, well, Kitty Giggle, I guess I'll take it. Please hit like and subscribe. Hello, Lassie QT2. I can't even pronounce that. Good to see you. 533333 is the perfect prism. I don't know what that means. Although Dad brings up a good point, contact the Grand Lodge in your area, because if you were asked to give money in advance, the Grand Lodge should know about that so they can at least know what's happening and who is scamming you, or know that there's a scam taking place and warn people not to give money in advance. Lassie, all right, Lassie, thanks for being here. Twerkly eyebrows. The conversation is all about Freemasonry. It's wonderful to have you be a part of it. Please hit like and subscribe. No, we cannot do that, but we can warn people about what's taking place. What degree Mason am I? Asks COVID Warrior. I am the highest degree Mason, which is 3rd degree. That's the highest you can go. However, I'm also an 18th degree Scottish Rite Mason. But just because I'm 18th degree Scottish Rite doesn't mean I'm a higher degree than a 3rd degree. 3rd degree is the degree that matters. That's the Master Mason degree. Hello, Curiosity Nudge. Great to have you back. Thank you for being here. Lassie. All right, Lassie. Thank you for being here. Well, Mark Roy, you are mentioning some pillars, but I don't know what that has to do with 9/11. Who can join Freemasonry? Well, you need to believe in a supreme being. The nature of that supreme being is up to you. But if you're a strict atheist who believes in no such thing as a supreme being, you're not going to have a lot of success. You can't be a child. You need to be at least 18 in the States, 21 in Canada. And every lodge then will decide for themselves certain things based on, for example, your moral character, how you interact with the lodge, but that is the application process. For the start of it, what you need to be is someone who believes the Supreme Being, is of the correct age, and if you want to join the fraternal side of Freemasonry, you need to be a man. 33rd is not the highest degree. People think it is. 33rd is the highest degree, you could argue, in Scottish Rite, but it's not the highest degree in Freemasonry. The highest degree in Freemasonry is the 3rd degree. That's the highest degree in Craft Lodge. After that, you can join different, like you can join the Scottish Rite, you can join the York Rite, you can join the Shrine, and those are all very special things to join, but they do not make you, they're not give you higher ranks. They just give you, different specializations within the craft. It is a conferred degree. That's right. To be a 33rd, you have to be conferred, invited, requested. It's really an honorific. It's kind of like getting a Mason of the Year award in some ways. So yeah, it's a very important part of the craft though. But it doesn't make you a higher Mason than a 3rd degree Mason. Anybody who says that they're 33rd degree, therefore they're of a higher rank, is pulling your leg, is full of baloney. Mark, there's a lot of numbers happening, none of which I understand what you're talking about. I think you're trying to pull some numerology stuff, which does not make any sense. The future is yours. Please hit like and subscribe. 33 is the pyramid, 90 is of the square. 90-degree angle? Are you talking about like 33rd degree, 90-degree angles? Which is true, somewhat. 90-degree angle is a square. Well, I know I got a big forehead. Slim pickings. I know I got a big forehead, but you can still hit the like and subscribe button. Harry Mason, really? Is that true? I haven't seen the movie Silent Hill in years. I remember really liking it when I saw it because I love scary movies. I love horror films, but I haven't seen it for ages. I'll have to check it out. Nice. Make sure to pick some up, Dad. By the way, Dad, I'm mailing your Christmas gift this weekend is my plan. I've got to mail a bunch of stuff this weekend for a bunch of people. So you're on the list, I promise. Unplanned. Please hit like and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. What do you guys do there? Will you get any benefits? Well, we do get benefits. However, the benefits are very dependent on the individual Mason. No two Masons necessarily get the same benefit. For me, for example, one of the benefits I get is by joining Freemasonry, it made me feel closer to my grandfather who passed away before I was born. I never got to meet him in person. I never got to meet him, but he was a Freemason, I'm a Freemason, and by being a Freemason, I feel like I'm closer to him. And also my papa, my mom's grandfather, and also my dad in some ways, though less so my dad because, I already knew him, I grew up with him, so, I felt like I had a good relationship with him before I joined Freemasonry. But in some ways, I feel like it's brought me a little bit closer to him. But certainly my grandfather, especially my dad's father, but that's a unique benefit to me because, not everybody who joins has family connections to the craft. For other people, they may get the benefit of making friends. They may, especially if they're new to a country and join Freemasonry, they can meet people they wouldn't know otherwise. Some people get the benefit of developing skills and abilities in public speaking. Some people learn how to administer meetings. Some people just enjoy the food and the fellowship and the refreshments after. So there's a million reasons. There's a million benefits you can get, but at the end of the day, it's completely personal. There is no single benefit. Every Mason benefits in his or her own way. Bev Rogers, my papa was a 33rd degree. Okay, my dad's father, I never met him, so I never really had a name for him other than, my grandfather. But my mom's father, we called him Papa. We called my mom's parents, it was Papa and Nana. and Papa was a Mason. I don't think he ever joined Scottish Rite, but he was worshipful master of his lodge, um, interestingly enough. I am not a Shriner, but I respect the Shriners. Great organization, great group of guys. Okay, Rainbow is a youth group it's a Masonic youth group for young girls, if I recall correctly, ages 11 to 21. Excellent group, wonderful organization. They do a lot of good for the world as well as for the craft. So Bev Rogers, thank you for being here. I hope you hit the like button. I hope you hit the subscribe button. I think this is your first time on the stream, if I'm not mistaken, but it's wonderful to have you join. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome, Noah. Thank you for being new to the channel. As always, I hope you like and subscribe. Let me know if you have any thoughts, questions on Freemasonry. Positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. Every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m., I chat about Freemasonry. 1 a.m., I also chat about Freemasonry. But 1 p.m., I have specific topics. 1 a.m., I just hang out and chat about anything, whatever jumps on the stream. My grandpa was a Freemason, says Jared Triger. Okay, both of mine were as well. Both my grandfathers. I smell autism. I don't think you can smell autism. However, elbow scab, please hit like and subscribe. I have his ring. Very cool. Yeah, a lot of people get Masonic rings. Sometimes they can get pins, rings, coins, aprons. There's so many different things that you can get passed down from grandfather to father, from grandfather to grandson. Oftentimes without them even being a Mason or without them even understanding what is being passed down. So very cool. I'm glad you got your grandfather's ring. I hope it brings you good memories of him. That's cute and sentimental, asking about financial stuff. Well, we're not going to ask about financial stuff. That's the point. Nobody share with me your financial stuff. I don't want to be, other than if you want to give me a super chat, that's great. However, just do a super chat if you can. I'd very much appreciate it. I don't know what the Mason button is. I think I've seen plenty of Masonic bumper stickers. So there's that, if that's to what you're referring. Well, 50 Cent is a very handsome fella, so I will take it. I will take it quite happily. But thank you for being here. Marty, please hit the like and subscribe button. Same thing with you, John Salisbury. We're going to give it a bit more time. Just hang out. Then about an hour in, going to start on the main topic. Masonic fonts, or the best type of fonts we can use in Freemasonry when recording or when creating our documents. Either minutes, summons, whatever it might be. Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Not a bumper sticker, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen a lot of those. They were very common for Masons to put on their cars back in the day. I don't see those much anymore. But yeah, I mean, you can buy them online still. A lot of shops sell them. Again, which is why even if you see one of those on somebody's car, don't automatically assume they're a Mason, because they might not be. I did read The Man Who Would Be King, but that was years ago. Or no, was it The Once and Future King? I don't think I've read it. It's up to you, COVID warrior. It's your car, and it was sold to you with it on. I would just say, if you are going to keep it on the car, just understand that people may assume you're a Freemason, or Masons may come and ask you about it, and just be honest with them and upfront and explain that you're not a Freemason. But I can't tell you what to do with your, at the end of the day, it's your item. And it's your car. But for whatever it's worth, I can tell you what I would do, which is if I wasn't a Mason, I wouldn't have it on my car. Because I wouldn't want people assuming incorrectly I'm a Freemason and potentially coming up and asking me information, the answers to which I do not have. Um, but it's your car. You bought it. Whoever you bought it from chose to leave it on there. So that's just the way it is. It would feel better, Conrad Black, if you hit the like and subscribe button. It would feel much better if you were to be so kind as to do that. Hello again, Preet Singh. Welcome back. It's great to have you join once again. I hope you're doing well. I hope you hit the like button. Thank you for being here. Yes, Tom Honk. I'm a Freemason. I've been a Freemason since 2007. The purpose of this channel is to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, as well as to talk about, Masonic, or providing stories of Masonic interest. Hey, are you in the States or Canada? I am in Canada, Windsor, Ontario. Born and raised, and I love it. Greatest country in the world, in part because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. So, Manly P. Hall, not much. I'm not a huge fan of Manly P. Hall. First of all, he actually wrote most of his famous stuff before he was a Freemason. So I think you need to keep that in mind. A lot of people assume that a lot of his famous works were written as a Freemason. It wasn't. It was written way before he was a Freemason. And I'm not a big fan of esotericism as a general rule. I think it gets way overdone and way over kind of talked about. Which is great. The more Indians, the better. The more people, the better. I don't judge anybody, positively or negatively based on their race or anything like that. And I'm a pro-immigration. I think we in Freemasonry have a responsibility to be open to helping others. We're looking for a better life. Are you a boxer? I'm not, but I've trained boxing, Rowdy Rider. Please hit like and subscribe, by the way. I've also trained MMA. Where are you from? Canada, Windsor, Ontario. Born and raised in Winnipeg, though. Do you know anything of the Masons? I know there's Freemasons in Kansas. I don't think I've ever been to Kansas, sadly, and attended a Masonic meeting there. But, it's a recognized jurisdiction, so if you're interested in joining Freemasonry, Kansas would be a great place to do it, or learning more about it even, not necessarily just joining, just learning more about it. You could hang out there as well. Well, it is a part of the monarchy, of the Commonwealth, I should say, and proud of it. What religion did you claim when you became a Freemason? You don't claim a religion, right? Freemasonry is not a religion itself, nor do you claim a religion. You need to believe in a supreme being, but that supreme being is kind of personal. For some, they're Christian. For some, they're, it could be Christian, it could be Catholic, Catholic or Protestant. It could be Jewish, it could be Muslim, indigenous. For me, I never really claimed a particular religious faith. It's more a spiritual belief in a supreme being than a particular belief in a particular religious religion per se. Yeah, COVID, that's a very basic way to say it, but yeah, you have to ask. You'll never be recruited or offered to join. You have to ask. That doesn't mean we as Freemasons or me as a Freemason can't talk about Freemasonry, can't talk about why I love it, can't talk about why I think it's so valuable. However, at the end of the day, the purpose of this channel is not to recruit anybody or encourage anybody to join. It's up to you to decide you want to join. All I can do is tell you why I love it, and you have to kind of decide from there. There's no worship in a Masonic temple. You're not wrong. There's no religious worship. I would argue there is a type of maybe worship's not the right term, but there is a type of reverence, might be the best term for it, but there's no religious worship, that's for sure. Um, I do not follow Hermetic mysticism. Happy holidays to you, and happy holidays to you too. If you want to make it an extra special happy holiday, please hit like and subscribe. I'm doing well, Matthew Painter. How are you? Um, Thank you for being here. I mean, there are actually a few Masons I do know of who study Hermetic mysticism, but I'm not one who believes in mysticism per se or esotericism. I tend to be pretty, you know, nefarious, tend to be pretty, not cynical, but um, what's the word I would look for? I'm not one who's a huge fan of mysticism or spiritualism or anything like that. Despite the fact I describe my belief in a supreme being as spiritual, when it comes to things like ghosts, mysticism, I tend to be pretty skeptical. What depends? So, COVID warrior, what you're talking about there is jurisdictional issues. Within Freemasonry, there's different branches and different types of Masonic lodges. In France, for example, you do have regular, quote unquote, regular Masonry that would be recognized by my jurisdiction. I could attend their meetings. You also have lodges that are part of what would be called the liberal order or co-Freemasonry. And in those cases, they're different. It's called, the Grand Orient of France or Grand Orient of France. They're part of the more liberal order. So they're different, but having said that, different's okay. What makes Freemasonry beautiful is it's like an umbrella term under which there are a ton of different groups and organizations. There's regular, there's irregular, there's liberal orders, there's Prince Hall, there's AF and AM, there's F and AM, there's United Grand Lodge of England, there's Grand Lodge of Canada, the province of Ontario, there's Rainbow, there's Job's, there's Demolay. There's so many different groups that in one way or another are connected to or are part of Freemasonry. That I think is the coolest thing about it. And the Grand Orient of France and its liberal order represents just one type of Freemasonry. Well, I wouldn't call the Grand Orient of France clandy or clandestine because they've been around pretty much as long as UGLE has been around. Not quite, but they've been around for a long time. So calling them clandestine, I wouldn't go that far. And also, they are recognized by a lot of different jurisdictions. Like the Grand Orient of France is not kind of some unrecognized island, existing on its own. I'm one of those. So I mean, if somebody wanted to join the Grand Orient of France, I think I know some Grand Orient guys. They're great people. They're great Masons. I wouldn't, tell them not to. The issue is they're not able to visit, for example, my lodge, nor can I visit theirs because we don't have recognition. To me, the problem with clandestine lodges is the point at which they start to lie to their members and claim that if you're a member of a clandestine lodge, you can visit every other lodge and you have full recognition, which is just not the case. So I think you need to be really careful about that. Sure, Bev Rogers, ask away. Yeah, I guess Grand Orient of France, it's not even clandestine, it's irregular, which is a very important distinction. A lot of Masons don't recognize that distinction, but clandestine versus irregular is very important to keep in mind. Same thing with kind of the Order of Women Freemasons in some jurisdictions. It's not clandestine. It's some jurisdictions claim it to be irregular. Bev, ask away. Tom, honk. What do you think of Albert Pike? Not a huge fan. I think he got a lot of stuff right, but I think he got a lot of stuff wrong. And the problem with Albert Pike is a lot of non-Masons read Morals and Dogma and treat it as though it's some type of Masonic gospel, which is not the case. He's not Masonic gospel. He's one man expressing his opinions, which really had more to do with Scottish Rite in the southern jurisdiction than anything else. COVID warrior, I was going to join this past summer. I mean, summer's been a little while ago. If you're waiting for an application, I would probably get in touch with them and just ask them what the holdup is, if you can get an application. But don't even think about getting an application at first. Just get in touch with them and talk to them. And just explain why you want to join. I don't know how well you got to know them so far. Go out for coffee with them, maybe grab some food with them. Sometimes before you even fill an application, the best thing you can do is take a few moments to get to know them, confirm that you're going to enjoy them, confirm that you're going to enjoy spending time with them, and then complete your application. Thank you, Rayan28 for subbing. I very much appreciate that. Everybody do so. I'm almost at 3,050 subs, which is crazy to think. So help a brother out. Hit that like and subscribe button if you can. No, Lil Tugi, I cannot. But what you can do is hit the like and subscribe button. Nivek, yes, I got a big head. That shouldn't stop you from hitting the like and subscribe button. Help me get to 3,050 subs. I'd very much appreciate it. That's true, Michael Moore. I mean, somewhat it does apply to Canadian Freemasonry a little bit Canadian Scottish Rite, because we are more based on the southern jurisdiction than the northern jurisdiction. Even though when I think of Freemasonry in Canada, I tend to think of the northern jurisdiction because I live so close to Michigan, right? It's right across the border. But it does somewhat apply to that. But again, you need to be incredibly hesitant as to how much of Albert Pike to what extent you view Albert Pike as speaking for Freemasonry, because no one speaks for Freemasonry, not even me, right? I don't speak for Freemasonry. I speak for my opinions on Freemasonry, what it is that I love about it, some of the things I hope to see maybe change about it, but it's my opinions exclusively. It's not anybody else's, and nor should it be considered as such. Yes, my head is real. Please hit like and subscribe. We're going to give this another 8 minutes. We're going to start talking about today's main subject, Masonic fonts, the way that we can, not even fonts per se, but just formatting our written documentation, be it correspondence, minutes, or any other Masonic documentation, in a way that, is best for posterity, for communication, for a combination of those two things. I wouldn't call them diabolical. I would just call them sometimes correct, sometimes incorrect. I am from Canada. Who is my higher power? My higher power, I wouldn't even call it higher power. I use the term supreme being. It's hard to describe, but the basic way I describe it is my supreme being is the rational nature of the universe as expressed through the mathematical and geometric principles that underline the universe. So when you're looking at, for example, Einstein's theory of relativity and the equations that make up the theory of relativity, you're looking at the face of my supreme being. Mark Farrell, I have no idea what you're saying, Mark Farrell. Please hit like and subscribe, though. That would be very kind of you. A quote from Albert Einstein. Look at that, Tom Honk quoting Albert Einstein. Hello, Real Toyota. What do you mean, how does that work within Freemasonry? Gain Schillis. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, it works because it's a supreme being. And because Freemasonry is not a religion, it doesn't have to be, one of the Abrahamic faiths, for example. New Brunswick? Okay, I don't know a ton of Masons from New Brunswick because I never had the opportunity to visit there. I know a bunch in Nova Scotia. Halifax, but never in New Brunswick, sadly. Deserta, thank you so much for that. Merlin James, say Jesus is Lord. I can say Jesus is Lord. I'm not personally a Christian, so I don't believe necessarily in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Having said that, Freemasonry welcomes men of all different faiths and all different beliefs, including Christianity. And we have many Masons who would, would not only say it, but believe Jesus to be their Lord and their Savior, for that matter. Well, I mean, I don't know if everybody in the Grand Lodge is a huge fan of it, but that's okay. Keeps things more interesting, keeps things more fun. They can think whatever they want. One of the things I've learned is if you want to make changes, if you think something's wrong and needs to be improved upon or changed, you got to be willing to take some hits along the way, and you got to be willing to fight back against people you got to be willing to, metaphorically speaking, throw down sometimes. Whether it be against Grand Lodges or against other Masons or whatever it might be. You can't be afraid to ruffle a few feathers, especially if you think what you're doing is right. Mal, I'm going to take your answer. I'm going to take your question as serious. My views are don't do it. I've never smoked crack, nor do I ever want to. The risks are not worth it. The risk of addiction is not worth it. As someone who worked in a jail and was a probation officer, you are absolutely, you're playing with fire, literally and figuratively. The health risks are real. The danger is real. Not just the danger of addiction, but the danger of getting, a bad batch or something in it that you didn't expect. You could end up, there could be things in what you're smoking far worse than what you expect. My advice would be don't do it. And if you think you need to, find someone to talk to get some help so you don't do it again. I worked in a jail, Glurbo. I was a probation officer, then I worked in the jail. I wasn't in there because someone sent me there, unless you count the government sending me there to work. But I worked. It does. Well, I mean, I think it is a troll, probably, but I do think there's a Masonic element to it in that we as Freemasons, at least me, one of my responsibilities as a Freemason, I think, is to try to promote the good of society. One thing I always say is Freemasonry is the belief that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. And the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth also means responding to questions like that. Because even if he is trolling, which he probably is, somebody else could read that and maybe they, for whatever reason, take it seriously or take it as a serious question. And I want to answer it honestly, based again on my experiences as a probation officer, working in a jail, seeing what it does to people. And I think I have a Masonic duty to give people a warning of no, it's serious and it can really harm you for whatever it's worth. Seraphin, maybe we do, maybe we don't. I'm not going to answer that question because that is part of, what we do in private ceremonies is private for a reason. It maintains the bonds of brotherhood between generations. So if I start to answer those kind of questions as to what happens within a Masonic ceremony or ritual, then it ruins the connection we have with our brothers. So I'm not going to say yay or nay. What I'm going to say is if you want to learn what happens in a Masonic ceremony, the way to do it is to join. And the way to join is to talk to a local Masonic lodge, a recognized Masonic lodge. Well, fair enough. I'm a spokesperson for me and what I think, right? I always say this channel is not meant to reflect anybody else's views on Freemasonry but my own. So, and just my own views in general on life, right? This is not meant to be a spokesperson for anybody else. I still appreciate everybody being here, and no one has to watch if they do not want to. How often do you recommend remand for defendants accused? Global. That's a very specific question. I haven't been a Freemason for, or sorry, I haven't been a Freemason, excuse me. I haven't been a probation officer for so many years. It depends. I mean, there's so many different factors involved in that. I can't give specific numbers. It would depend on the seriousness of the offense, their risk factor to reoffend based on our, what's called an LSI. It would depend on their history on probation. It would depend on collateral contacts and who I've managed to speak to. There's so many factors that go into kind of enforcement mechanisms. It's very hard to answer, but it's a multifaceted thing. There's so many different ways you have to answer. There's no specific answer I can give because if I'm determining an enforcement mechanism, I have to determine it based on so many different factors. It's the same thing as being a Freemason, right? If you have a Masonic brother who's messing up somehow, who knows how it might be, there's not a one size fits all answer to how to deal with that. You want to base it on their Masonic history, what they've done within Freemasonry, what they've contributed, what's happening in their life, in order to determine how best to proceed. That one Aussie guy, welcome from Aussie. Thank you for being here from Australia. I hope that you are doing well. Well, I'm not a probation officer anymore. I've not been a probation officer for many years, so it's been a while. I was a probation officer for about 5 years, and I worked in a jail for about 5 years. More like 7 years probation officer, 5 years jail, which also gave me an interesting perspective on the United Kingdom Metropolitan Police's recent decision regarding disclosure of being a Mason to their bosses. I'm actually one of the few Masons who's not opposed to it. Having been engaged in law enforcement or in the criminal justice system, and there being times I had to disclose being a Freemason to my bosses, it's not something I'm opposed to per se. I think there's a valid reason for which one would need to disclose being a Freemason, so long as you have to disclose every other organization of which you're a part as well. Well, I don't have any legs, right, said Fred, so I have shorts, so I don't wear trousers, nor do I roll them up. What I will say is, if anybody wants to learn about what happens in a Masonic ceremony or ritual, you got to join. Don't rely on this chat or this stream. And Seraphim, no. Everything that you're saying is incredibly incorrect. And wrong. Gain Schillis, when you say WTF, are you referring to the Metropolitan Police decision? I don't see any questions that you've written about Freemasonry. I see don't address the genuine questions, but address British immediately. Well, we should all address British immediately because British are wonderful people. Actually, I'm applying for my British citizenship, interestingly enough. Nobody really shakes hands anymore. I still shake hands, right? This is cars. What's the question about masonry, Gain Schillis? I think I missed it. This is cars. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a subscriber. It's very much a pleasure to have you join. I'm not a big fan of the term crackhead, by the way, Gain Schillis. Not a big fan of the term crackhead. That was too disparaging towards people suffering from addiction, which is a real thing. I cannot do that curiosity nudge. That's nothing I can help you with. I'm very sorry. I wish I could, but You had to work on that on your own. Yeah, I mean, my faith isn't normal, quote unquote. But Freemasonry doesn't require a normal faith. It requires a belief in a supreme being. And the nature of that supreme being um, is completely up to the individual. The Freemasons have sold out the world from under rest. I do not know what that means, but we are not selling the world, nor are we selling anything. We're trying to build a better world, I would argue, but that's my personal opinion. Not every Mason will agree. But I've always said the genuine goal of Freemasonry is to try to build a better world, or at least a better community, through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth, which I still believe to be the case. That is kind of the reason why I view Freemasonry as important. That is what I think the goal of Freemasonry needs to be. Illuminati does not exist. Macomania. Very sorry to report that to you. Illuminati was founded in 1777. It really ceased to exist in a meaningful way by the early 19th centuries. It does, Valley Bras. Please hit like and subscribe. That's a great question, Dippity Doo. When I say trying to build a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth, the obvious question is for whom? Not for who, for whom. Just to get the grammar out of the way. Honestly, the answer is for everyone. I know that sounds a little bit silly, but it's true. I do truly believe that when Freemasonry exists in a meaningful way in the community is made better. Whether you're a Mason or not, it makes the entire community and the world better. It makes it economically better. It makes it socially better. It reduces crime. It improves civic engagement and civil governance. And there's all sorts of evidence that to be the case. Probably the best example of the evidence for that is found in Bowling Alone, a book written by Robert Putnam in the 90s, turned into a movie called Join or Die in 2025. Or I think 2024, actually, a documentary. Bait. I mean, if you want to do a super chat, by all means, Bait. I can't read all that. 6935. You're welcome to do a super chat, and I'd very much appreciate it. This is not. I don't think this is Satan world. This is a wonderful world. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be part of the world, despite the fact it can be very difficult and challenging sometimes. It can also be pretty wonderful sometimes. So yeah, Billy Field. I'm living in Canada, Windsor, Ontario, which is a wonderful city, a wonderful country. Canada is the greatest country in the world, in part because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. London, I was just in London a couple weeks ago. It was wonderful. London is a very awesome town, a very awesome city, very friendly people. I didn't get to spend as much time there as I would like because I had to travel up north to Newcastle and then the United Kingdom. However, while I was there, I really loved it. So, Joe said hi. Hello, Jojo. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry that your life was made miserable by Freemasons, Seraphim. I mean, Freemasons are human beings, which means we can be, wonderful people, but there's also Masons who are not good people. It's human nature. Freemasonry represents the entire bend of the human spectrum. So it's not impossible that a Freemason were to treat you badly or to make your life miserable. What I would say, though, is if any Masons were doing so, they were not doing so because they're Freemasons. If they were following Masonic tenets and principles and philosophies, they would not have acted in that manner. They would have made your life better or at least left you alone. The fact that if a Freemason did make your life miserable, they were not following Masonic tenets and philosophies and principles, which can happen because Masons are human beings and we are imperfect. I'm very sorry, though, if anybody made your life miserable. Yes, I do have a nose. You should hit the like and subscribe button. Could you, 4745, could you please hit the like and subscribe button? Masonry worships Satan, they believe. We do not in the 33rd degree, not in any degree. Freemasonry is not about Satanism. I think someone's been reading a little bit too much Albert Pike. I love my country too. It's pretty incredible. Greatest country in the world. Thank you, could you? You could also do a 99-cent super chat if you so desired. All right. Flame, are you talking about haggis? Haga? I had haggis in Scotland. It was delicious. I had haggis, neeps, and tatties in honor of being in Edinburgh, Scotland. It was very, very good. All right. Let's switch over at some point to the main topic of today. So as you... I'm glad you never had a Christian treat you badly. I would say there's many examples of Christians acting badly, but that's not a reflection on Christianity. That's a reflection on the individuals and the fact that human beings aren't perfect. So, as you know, you may have known. Actually, here, let me do this for just 1 second and make a poll question. Do you have a favorite font? Advise in comments. It means he's my dad. So if you're saying I have an ugly nose, it's if you're saying I have an ugly nose, it's his fault. Okay, then I guess a big nose. All right. Do you have a favorite font? If you do, what is it? Times New Roman, sans serif, etc., Garamond. So why am I bringing this up? Well, as you may or may not know, depending on how much you follow politics, Marco Rubio, let's see, AP News. This was some 6 days ago. I do not know what that means. I do not have a cricket bat. I don't like cricket. It's too complicated. This was 6 days ago. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has ordered diplomatic correspondents to stop using the Calibri font and return to the more traditional Times New Roman, effective Wednesday, reversing a Biden administration shift to the less formal typeface that he called wasteful, confusing, and unbefitting the dignity of U.S. government documents. Typography shapes how official documents are perceived in terms of cohesion, professionalism, and formality. Rubio said in a cable sent to all U.S. embassies and consulates abroad Tuesday. In it, he said the 2023 shift to the sans serif Calibri font emerged from misguided DEI inclusion policies pursued by his predecessor, Antony Blinken. Rubio ordered an immediate return to Times New Roman, which had been among the standard fonts mandated by previous administrations. So the reason I'm talking about this is not to get into the political debate about whether Calibri or Times New Roman is better, but rather it's to demonstrate that fonts are actually incredibly important. Fonts matter. when it comes to how we are communicating, and that includes Freemasons. Freemasonry and Freemasons create a great deal of written documentation. The most common one is obviously our minutes. And these are minutes that need to be preserved for decades, in fact, for centuries, for hundreds upon hundreds of years. They're a way to maintain a record of what happened in Lodge for future generations, right? Every meeting you go to, there will be a set of minutes. On top of that, we regularly produce correspondence. The most common or well-known type of correspondence will be the summons or the trestle board. This is a summoning document or a correspondence sent out to Masonic brethren, usually every month, sometimes more often than that, advising what is happening in the lodge, what events are taking place, what is coming up within the Masonic Lodge, when the meetings are taking place, and any other information that needs to be known. There is usually and very often within that a district-wide trestle board or a district-wide summons as well, which is sent from the kind of district deputy, the leadership of an area, advising and communicating important information to the lodge. There can also be correspondence, letters, emails, all sorts of stuff advising brethren of what is happening in a Masonic meeting. There's also ledgers that keep track of financial information, financial documents, who has paid, who hasn't paid. There's even dues cards. Okay, I'm glad you ran into me. Such as, let me get you an example. Oops, that's not it. Let me see if I can actually pull out a dues card here. I am a Freemason, Theon Nicholas. Please hit like and subscribe. Here it is. You see my dues card here. So we are producing tons of written documents. Some of these don't need to be preserved forever. Some of these need to be preserved for centuries, for a very long time. And we need to think about how are we formatting these documents. And one of the questions that we need to ask is, what type of fonts are we using? Luigi got shrooms. The point of Freemasonry is the same as the point of any other group, to fulfill the human need to belong to something bigger than ourselves, to belong to a group. It's the same point that encourages us to join sports teams, to join communities, to be online communities, to join any type of group. It's the same point as when we were kids and started our own clubhouses. So Brother Michael Moore, I used to think that way, but I'm less sure now, because I do think that actually font does matter, right? Font matters. This is one of the things I wrote, because it silently shapes how a document is perceived, read, and trusted, often before a single word is consciously processed. In practical terms, fonts communicate tone before meaning. Readers form an impression in seconds. A font signals whether a document is formal or casual, traditional or modern, authoritative or friendly, right? For example, a sentence set in Garamond can feel thoughtful and established. Set in Calibri, it feels administrative. Set in decorative font, it feels unserious. The font frames the message before the message speaks. I am from Canada, Aboud. I am from Windsor, Ontario, right? Words carry meaning, but fonts carry context. A well-chosen font respects the reader, reinforces the message, increases clarity and trust, and ensures the document says the right thing in the right voice. Hold on just one second. I'm pulling out my next document. Comic Sans would be horrible. Welcome, Gareth. Thank you for being back here. I do appreciate you joining us very much. It's wonderful to have you. Yes, as Could You says, imagine writing an important business letter in Comic Sans. So, the first question is what type of, or the first, I think, thing we want to ask is what if it's a correspondence? Right? What if it's a correspondence? Let us say, for example, a a summons or a letter to either a member or to Grand Lodge. According to my research, the best type of font is a classic serif font. Serif fonts guide the eyes along the text. Which makes letters and formal communications more comfortable to read, especially in print or multi-page documents. They convey professionalism and respect. Correspondence often represents an institution or an individual's credibility. Serif fonts signal seriousness, care, and intention in a way that casual or trendy fonts do not. For formal letters, official notices, and institutional communication, readers subconsciously expect a serif font. Using one aligns with long-standing conventions and avoids distraction. They age well. Good correspondence should remain appropriate years later. Traditional, sorry, just one sec. Traditional serif fonts remain readable and respectable over time, unlike many modern and decorative styles. So the best serif styles for correspondence, and what I did is I actually did a little bit of a poll. I went online and asked some different people what they thought the best serif style for correspondence was, and then I asked a bunch of different chat GPT or AI models as well. And then I also looked at my own Masonic correspondence and what the type of fonts I was most commonly seeing was. Basically, the results, the best overall serif or the best overall font for correspondence, the most common one I saw was Garamond, which here is actually described as warm, timeless, and scholarly. Castellan and Baskerville also popped up. Traditional or transitional serif, Times New Roman, familiar and functional but utilitarian. Fonts to avoid for correspondence, decorative or themed fonts, all caps display fonts for body text, sans serif fonts such as Calibri or Arial for formal letters, script or handwriting fonts. So according to the research I did, so for correspondence, a traditional serif font, especially an old style serif, is the best choice because it is readable, professional, and universally appropriate. I like E.B. Garamond. Okay, cool. I like E.B. Garamond as well, to be honest. That's one of my favorite. So then I did some research asking different people, as well as some AI, what is the best font for taking administrative meeting minutes, such as your Masonic minutes. The best font for administrative meeting minutes is clear, conservative serif font, one that prioritizes readability, neutrality, and long-term usefulness. I think the last point there is key, long-term usefulness. Our minutes need to be readable today, tomorrow, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, and 100 years from now. right? So when we are typing out our minutes to be put in a record, what type of correspondence, what type of font, excuse me, are we going to be using? We need one that's clear, conservative, that prioritizes long-term usefulness. Will we be able to read it 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 300 years from now? The answer to that would be, doing research, actually, Edith Begrava, Garamond, not surprising, E.B. Garamond, designed for long-term reading, formal without being stiff or legalistic. It prints cleanly and reads well in PDFs, and the fact is most of our Masonic minutes, yes, we print out a copy, but a lot of them are now being saved on PDFs as well and being saved in UBS keys or zip drives. Ages well for records that may be referenced years later. It communicates this is a permanent record rather than this is a quick office memo. The practical setup is E.B. Garamond is the font, size 11.5 to 12, line spacing 1.2 to 1.5, alignment left, paragraphs first line indent, no extra space. This balances clarity, economy of space, and professionalism. If you don't want to use Garamond, some alternatives, Times New Roman, safe, neutral, widely accepted, Bakersfield or Baskerville, slightly crisper, or Calson. Fonts to avoid, sans serif office fonts such as Calibri or Arial, decorative or branded fonts, condensed fonts, or all caps. For administrative meetings, the best font is a traditional serif with Garamond as the top choice because it ensures clarity, credibility, and archival sustainability. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Zem Kids from India, VD as well. Neri Hughes, please hit like and subscribe. For a Masonic dues card, the best type of font is a traditional serif font chosen for dignity, legibility, at small sizes, and timeless appearance. So that's really important to keep in mind when you're thinking about the best type of font to use in a Masonic dues card. A Masonic set of meeting minutes, those are going to be on 8.5 by 11 or legal size paper if you're in, let's say, Europe or England. You know, your correspondence is going to be on 8.5 by 11 or letter. A Masonic dues card, they are literally cards, right? They are, I mean, again, going back to show it off, they're this big. So it needs to be something that you can legibly understand at very small sizes. Especially because if you're traveling, you need to show it to people, especially if it's an older individual, they're wearing glasses, they can't see small print as well. It needs to be as legible as possible at smaller sizes. William, you are perfect. You'd be even more perfect if you hit the like and subscribe button. Once again, the recommendation is Garamond. Why Garamond works best? Because it remains readable at very small sizes, which is critical on a wallet-sized cards. It conveys traditional continuity and seriousness. It prints clearly on cardstock without heavy ink buildup. And I have, honestly, and Michael Moore, I'm not sure if you're still there, but I have seen Masonic dues cards smudge. I never really understood why. Part of me always assumed it was cheaper paper, but my assumption now might be it's actually the type of font that they're using, which encourages heavy ink buildup and smudging. Either way, I have seen dues cards smudge. And I've also seen dues cards that are very hard to read, in fairness. And it feels appropriate for an object meant to be carried for a year, at least, and to be, you know, potentially used often, handled often, shown to a lot of different people, especially if you're traveling to different Masonic events. So recommended typographic system for a dues card or membership card. The primary text, Garamond, regular or medium, 8 to 9 points. Labels or heading, Garamond small caps. Well, I mean, yeah, when I say I've seen them smudge, I've not seen an individual smudge the dues card, but I've been given dues card that look smudged or like the letters are smudged. My assumption is it may have happened due to a lot of handling of the card, but now I think it's probably happening maybe because it's being printed in not a great font that's encouraging like ink buildup, for example. Garamond small caps for the large number. Use small caps or lettering spaces, not italics. Avoid bold if absolutely necessary. Strong alternatives, Caslon, Baskerville, or Minion Pro. Fonts to avoid, sans serif fonts, script or decorative fonts, condensed fonts, or anything mystical. A classical serif font, especially Garamond, is the best type of font for a Masonic dues card because it balances tradition, readability, and permanence at small sizes. That's not to say there aren't times when Freemasons can use decorative fonts or ceremonial fonts. Obviously, the focus we've had has been on fonts for official documents, correspondence, summonses, dues cards, or minutes. In all cases, the recommendation has always been avoid decorative fonts, avoid decorative fonts, rather stick to fonts that convey seriousness, timeliness, or timelessness, and official quality, such as Garamond seems to be the most common type of font suggested to be used in these Masonic documents. I did look up examples of decorative fonts being used within Freemasonry. Most people agreed a decorative font, a Comic Sans would be an example of that, should be used almost never and except with a clear purpose. Decorative fonts have a place in Freemasonry, but not in ordinary correspondence. Their use should be symbolic, ceremonial, and restrained. When decorative fonts are important, you can use decorative fonts for certificates, membership awards, years of service, or charters, historical or commemorative reproductions, or creations of a charter for a new lodge. Even here, decorative fonts should be limited to titles only, or titles exclusively, never in the body of the text. The other time you can use it is formal invitations to special events, such as installations, cornerstone layings, anniversary banquets. A decorative font may be used for event title or lodge name. All details should remain in readable serif format or font. You can also use it for insignia, seals, and covers, such as the covers of booklets, title pages, or banners or seals. These are visual symbols, not reading documents. When decorative fonts should not be used, lodge minutes, summonses and notices, official letters, administrative correspondence, or emails or PDFs meant to read closely. Decorative fonts reduce clarity, weaken authority, and can unintentionally feel theatrical or unserious. Thank you, Turks, T3RXX. Thank you. That is incredibly kind of you. Anybody wants to do super chat? I hope you'll consider doing so. But that is very kind. I loved my trip to England. It was incredible. It was an absolute blast. Right? Why restraint? Why not using these specific type of decorative fonts matters within Freemasonry. Freemasonry, we don't value ornament, we value symbolism, we value meaning and expressing meaning well, and we value harmony, right? Typography should reflect that philosophy. A font should support the message, not compete with it. Decorative fonts belong to moments of ceremony, not communication. If a document is meant to be read carefully, use a classic serif like Garamond. If it is meant to be seen and commemorated, a decorative font may be used sparingly. Freemasons should use decorative fonts for ceremonial emphasis, and even then for titles and short phrases, never in correspondence or records. Yes, I agree with that, Parker. Or I agree with that, could you? But honestly, if you're going to be part of these streams, you need to accept the fact that you're going to deal with trolls. I'm an interesting guy, Dave. What can I say? So somebody asked above, what about Gothic font? Could you? What about Gothic font? I actually just took a moment to type that in to ChatGPT to ask what it thinks about this. What the interesting answer it gave is no, Gothic fonts should not be used for Masonic correspondence. Gothic fonts were designed for display and manuscript reproduction, not modern reading. In letters, notices, or emails, they slow comprehension and fatigue the reader. Freemasonry's documentation tradition aligns with Enlightenment era print culture, not medieval manuscript styles. Gothic script suggests medieval clerical writing, ecclesiastical texts, later nationalist uses. None reflect the administrative or philosophical tone of Masonic correspondence. It's theatrical rather than dignified, and it presents weak institutional credibility. When Gothic might be acceptable is for decorative initials on ceremonial certificates, artistic covers or historical reproductions, insignia, or purely ornamental elements. Never for the body of a text, never for names, dates, or details, never in routine correspondence. For correspondence, the best overall is suggested to be Garamond, right? What's interesting as well is if I go back to the very top, I did ask a few different AI or chat GPTs, if you had to pick a font for Masonic Freemasonry correspondence, what would you pick and why? The answer was Garamond, specifically Adobe Garamond or EB Garamond. Why it fits Freemasonry especially well? It's timeless, not trendy. Garamond originates in the 16th century, which quietly aligns with the craft's emphasis on antiquity and continuity. It feels established rather than fashionable, important for correspondence meant to reflect tradition rather than personality. It's scholarly and dignified without being stiff. Masonic writing often balances warmth with formality. Garamond reads as learned and reflective, but not cold or bureaucratic. It feels appropriate for lodge letters, summons and notices, educational papers, formal reflections, or addresses. Excellent readability for long texts. Many Masonic documents are meant to be read carefully and sometimes aloud, like meeting minutes. Garamond's letter forms are gentle on the eye, especially in print, which suits lectures, minutes, and extended correspondence. Freemasonry values symbolism, but also proportion and harmony. Garamond doesn't call attention to itself. It supports the message rather than competing with it, very much in spirit of the craft. And I'll be back in one moment, because again, we do talk about when it's appropriate to use when it's appropriate to use decorative fonts. Let me just try to grab this quickly. I'll be back in a moment. There are times, I would say, when it's appropriate to use decorative fonts, but those are rare. The perhaps most obvious example would be in your Masonic certificate, such as this, right? So you notice here it's a decorative font on top. This is in italic. It's very decorative. The name is decorative. It's done all in italics. But I think this would be the exception. This is a time when decorative font actually does make sense. However, if I'm writing down the minutes, I'm not going to use decorative fonts because I want it to be as easy to read as possible today, tomorrow, and in future, or any correspondence, right? If you consider my letter confirming my admission into Tranquility Lodge, number 2000, this actually looks like a Garamond font, right? That font, I know it's backwards, but even up top, you don't have a decorative font. You have a simple font, easy to read, that I'll be able to read today, tomorrow, 100 years from now. It's not tough on the eyes. So again, that's an example of a font that's easy to read and easy to understand and is beneficial and valuable for correspondence. So I know that for a lot of Masons, they'll probably view this as not that important, in the sense that, who cares about the type of font that's used in our minutes? Who cares about the type of font that's used in our correspondence? In my opinion, yes, it can seem like a minor detail, but the minor details matter. Everything matters. And I think it's incredibly important that we as Freemasons take the time to think about everything, including how we are writing our minutes, how we're writing our correspondence, how we're writing our dues cards, the type of fonts that we're using, not just for ourselves today, but for 100 years from now, right? Everything matters. And as someone who's seen dues cards smudge, I've seen, challenging readable, dues cards that are very challenging to read. As someone who's seen minutes that I can't decipher because they were handwritten at the time, I think this stuff matters and it's important. So my recommendation, my advice, for whatever it's worth, would be, if you're a Mason and you're trying to think of the best font to use when communicating to your lodge brethren, I hope you'll consider Garamond, E.B. Garamond in particular, for correspondence and for the minutes. When it comes to any type of certificate, award, prize, I hope you'll consider a more stylish or decorative font for the title, and then Garamond or a serif font for the body of the certificate or the award. Yes, thank you, could you? You're absolutely right. Not even for the Masons. Everybody should be paying attention to the type of font that they're using when they're communicating in written content, especially if written content is, how they make their living. For example, when I worked as a probation officer, I had to write reports for the judge. We had very specific rules on the type of font we would use, the way it was meant to be formatted, spacing, how it looked, because we had a responsibility to make our report as easy to read as possible for the judge, who has to go through dozens and dozens of reports every day, has, in some cases, literally hundreds of pages of documents to get through in, let's say, a court case. We have a responsibility to make sure that the type of font we were using was as easily readable and as easily understood as possible. And there were very specific rules about it. And if you didn't follow those rules, you could get into some trouble. Colonel Quayle. So you're a fan of Times New Roman, huh? Okay, well, that is obviously the decision of Marco Rubio. For me, I would say Garamond is the best. Tony Gruesome, why do you say I'm not a Freemason? I got a card in my pocket that says I am and everything. Hello, girl next door. Thank you for being here. Say what you mean. If you break the law and you, as well as the judge or prosecuting attorney, are both Masons, do you think that would affect the outcome at all? Well, it shouldn't affect the outcome because we as Freemasons are taught that if a brother is breaking the law, we are to advise the authorities and turn him in. We are not to countenance any brother or any person breaking the law. Having said that, well, first of all, you wouldn't necessarily know automatically, right? Because, I mean, if you have a personal relationship with them, because let's say you're both members of the same Masonic lodge, then you might know he's a Mason, but it's very possible you would have no idea he was a Freemason. Um, if he's coming from a different lodge, a different place. If everybody knew, or there was some type of pre-existing relationship, you're both members of the same lodge, my hope would be one would recuse himself, or you'd recuse yourself from the case, not because you'll do anything wrong, but rather because it could appear there's the appearance of a conflict of interest. I've always said, when it comes to Freemasonry, it's not just about the quote unquote truth, it's about the perception. If people perceive there to be a potential conflict of interest because you have a Masonic defendant and a Masonic judge, and if the judge were to know the defendant as a Freemason, I think it's completely appropriate for the judge to recuse himself. Even if he were to judge in a completely fair manner, I don't think it's right for him to remain as the judge because there could be the appearance of conflict of interest, and that appearance matters just as much as anything else. Oh, it depends where you're at, could you? But it's shrinking presently in North America, that's for sure. Like I said, it's not shrinking everywhere. In some places it's growing. It's growing in South America, to my understanding, but it's definitely shrinking in North America. It has been shrinking since 1959. It's also shrinking in England, especially. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed we can turn it around. I don't know, say what you mean, what the average age. I know, for example, the average age of Freemasons in Texas is 67, but I don't know beyond that. It's trending older, though. It's definitely trending older. You're welcome, say what you mean. I enjoy answering your questions. I hope, as I said, you'll hit that like and subscribe button if you can, and thank you all for being here. I mean, civic engagement in general, could you 4-7, is significantly declining in North America. When I say civic engagement, I mean almost any type of civic group or organization, whether it be the Masons, the Oddfellows, the Moose, the Elk. It is unfortunately declining. And there's lots of different explanations for that. There's not one single good answer for that, unfortunately. Yeah, you're not necessarily wrong. I mean, look at all the stories this weekend. It's hard to say because I've read reports that actually 2025 is as safe a time to be alive as, it's safer to be alive in 2025 than at any other point in our history. And I think that might be the case. It feels like certainly life expectancy, even if it has dropped slightly in the States in the last 2 years, is still higher than at almost any other point in human history. You're less likely to be the victim of a crime, according to statistics. But it doesn't feel that way for a lot of different reasons. Well, I've never heard of that, RH. I'll try it. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. I hope that you are doing well. Um, Maybe I'll try it and let you know how it works. Do you have any thoughts, questions, comments on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear them. And we're going to give it a bit more time. We'll see who else joins. I also hope you enjoyed my question, or my question about my comments on the fonts that we in Freemasonry are using to record our minutes, create dues cards, send correspondence, more in general, even. I hope maybe it encourages Masons to think about these things and to not take what can seem like a small detail for granted. The world turns on small details. Say what you mean. Does Freemasonry have, or do Freemasons, I'd say, have any specific moral code that separates them from traditional or typical Judeo-Christian values? I mean, no. How would I say that? I'm trying to think of the best way to answer that question. It's a good question. So no. I mean, never have I seen any Masonic ritual, ceremony, obligation, oath that, encourages or promotes a moral code that is separate or different from not even typical Judeo-Christian value, good person. Like one of the things that you'll often hear or that I often remind people of is, if you are Jewish, if you are Christian, if you are Muslim, whatever it might be, there is nothing in a Masonic obligation or in a Masonic code that in any way will contradict the values of, Judaism, Christianity, or whatever faith it is to which you belong. I think in many ways what Freemasonry does is the lessons contained therein, they actually complement Judeo-Christian values. They provide another way for us to consider Judeo-Christian values and Judeo-Christianity and to strengthen those values through the practice of brotherly love, relief, and truth. So it's not a separate moral code by any means. Freemasonry is not a morality, it's a club. But if you are following the kind of philosophies of that club, I think it complements the typical values that we would ascribe to the West, as well as Enlightenment values, as well as just being a good person, being a good human being. Sketchy Rufus, thank you for that. I hope that you are having a great day. Thank you for your prayers. That is incredibly kind of you. Well, it depends could you 4745? It depends on the type of Freemasonry to which you're speaking. To be a Freemason, you must believe in a supreme being. So if you are like an ardent atheist and you refuse to believe in any supreme being, then you're not going to be in Freemasonry. At least you're not going to be in quote unquote regular Freemasonry because you need to believe in a supreme being. Now, outside of Freemasonry, I mean, I don't care whether you're an atheist, a Christian, Jewish, Muslim, I don't care what you believe. I'll, treat you with respect and you're welcome to have whatever beliefs you want. If you are, like I said, an ardent atheist, then, and refuse to believe in any type of supreme being, then you're not going to be quote unquote in Freemasonry. Having said that, there is the liberal order or liberal orders within Freemasonry, which do accept atheists. Grand Orient of France, I believe, is one. I could be mistaken about that. And in which case they're treated the same as every other member. So outside of Freemasonry, hopefully, and if you are a Freemason and you're actually paying attention to what Freemasonry stands for, Whether the person across from you is an atheist, a Muslim, a Christian, a Jewish person, or any other faith, you're treating them exactly the same. Within Freemasonry, the ability to join is going to be dependent on whether you're joining a liberal order or a, I guess, traditional or recognized order, regular order. Oh, we got the 6 7s. We got the 6 7s. Hello, Panda Gaming. Thank you for being here. I've never met a satanic Mason, could you? I've given this story before, so forgive me for chewing my food twice. But I was once at a Masonic building. We got a phone call. I answered the phone. It was somebody calling and said they're interested in joining Freemasonry because they worshiped Satan and wanted to join Freemasonry because they believed that Freemasons worship Satan as well. So first I explained that Freemasonry is not a religion and we don't worship Satan. But from there, I met with him and had coffee and I talked to him about what Freemasonry is and how it works. And he decided he did not want to join because he did not believe that Freemasonry and Satanism were compatible. So I've never met a satanic Freemason. To my understanding, it's not compatible because Freemasons, you have to believe in a supreme being. Satanists believe that they are their own supreme being, which would not be compatible, to my knowledge. Having said that, I think Minotaur is right. I don't think it would necessarily disqualify you. I've just never met any who are interested in joining because it doesn't seem as though it's compatible. Philip, well, I'm a Mason. I don't think I'm evil, so let me know why you think I am, though. And thank you for being here. I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Well, shady, that's not how it works. In fact, Freemasonry does not invite. Freemasonry, you can talk about Freemasonry, you can talk about why you love it. You can talk about why it is that you think Freemasonry is so valuable. We got the hearts, that's probably smoky. However, to join, Freemasonry will never try to invite you or coerce you to join. Rather, Freemasonry encourages you, if you're interested, to ask, to approach them, as it should be. Yes, I got a peanut head. What can I say? So if Freemasonry isn't a religion, why must you believe in a supreme being? That's a very good question. Welcome back, Robux player. I'm going to answer it in 2 seconds, but first I have to go to the washroom like crazy. So I'm going to be right back in just 1 moment. This is my co-host. Give this dog a name. I got to run to the washroom. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Ozzy, I'll take that as a name, Ozzy. I never heard of a Freemason called Brevik. So the question was, if Freemasonry isn't a religion, why specifically must you believe in a supreme being? Well, there's three reasons for it. Um, I guess really there's one reason for it, but kind of there's two other components that apply. The primary reason, though, is within Freemasonry, you have to take oaths or obligations as it relates to the different degrees. You'll often take them on what's called a volume of the sacred law. The purpose, and if you're Muslim, it's the Quran. If you're Christian, it's the Bible. If you're Jewish, it's the Torah. Whatever, if you're indigenous, it can be an eagle feather. Um, but and so it's meant to be a book that is a reflection of your supreme being as you understand it and as you believe in it. If you don't believe in a supreme being, then because you believe in a supreme being, the theory is the obligation that you take is going to be, it's going to speak more strongly and more directly to your heart and to your conscience, because you're not just taking an obligation to yourself, you're taking an obligation and promising something to the supreme being as you understand it. So it's meant to touch your heart. It's the same reason why in court, for many, you would swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. The idea is by swearing on the Bible, you are, it's more likely to touch your conscience, it's more likely to touch your heart, and you're more likely to actually tell the truth because you're afraid not just of punishment, here on earth, but you're afraid of punishment from the big man upstairs. And so in Freemasonry, it's the same idea. You're taking an obligation. We want the obligation to speak to your heart, to speak to your conscience. If you don't believe in a supreme being, will it necessarily speak to your heart or speak to your conscience? Beyond that, it's tradition. Freemasonry cares about tradition very much, dating back all the way to the Anderson Constitutions of 1723. The necessity of believing in a supreme being, not in a particular God, but rather in any supreme being, was recorded and was, stated. And so it's been a tradition for over 300 years that we must believe in a supreme being of some sort to be a Freemason. Freemasons care about tradition very much. And the third, that belief is one way that binds all Masons together. Not that we have the same beliefs, but rather we all believe in some version of supreme being. It's a way to ensure lodge cohesion. I hope that answered your question well. Thank you so much, Sarah Yamin, again for asking it, and thank you for being here. Don't forget, you can support this channel in a lot of different ways. You can hit the like and subscribe button. You can share this with other people. You can also do a super chat. You can follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Speaking of, tomorrow it's going to be a little bit of a different stream. I am going to be streaming from 1 to 2 at Dougal Superstore. Why? Because I'm going to be doing the Salvation Army bell ringing once again. I do it every year. It's something I love doing. A lot of Masons do it every year as well, but it's one of my favorite things to do. I can't wait to be there again. I'm going to live stream while I'm there, as well as I'm going to live stream while I'm there on my personal channel, probably around 2 o'clock. And that's going to be a blast. But then from 1 to 2, I'm going to do a brief live stream on this channel as well. No specific topics tomorrow, just going to be hang out and chat with people. I'd like to get you, that's very kind of you, Minotaur. Where's your lodge? I think I'm done traveling for the year, that's for sure. I've had a lot of travels, they've been incredible. But maybe I'll get out there. In the meantime, just tell your lodge to come find me on YouTube and on social media. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you, Brother Courtney, and thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Sure, that's a good way to put it, Minotaur. It's not necessary to respect another's beliefs, but it is necessary to respect that another has beliefs. Could you? Why do so many people seem to fear or distrust your organization? There's a lot of. Houdini was a Freemason. I'd love to visit Switzerland. Um, Welcome, no filter. Ed Gain indeed. Um, I mean, getting to Switzerland would be tough. It'd be very hard to travel all the way to Switzerland. Um, or expensive, but maybe. I'm sure there's a lot of really cool things in Switzerland worth visiting, especially your Masonic Lodge. Well, I will time out anybody. My chat, my rules. It was getting a little bit heated. I try to avoid that in the chat. You can talk to me, not talk to other people on stream. Um, so why do people seem to distrust Freemasonry? Social media spreading a bunch of conspiracy theories is a big one. A lot of people struggling in life, I think, are looking for a boogeyman, are looking for possibly someone or something or some group to blame, and they find an easy scapegoat in Freemasonry. It's a way for them to not have to look at their own lives. And the fact that we do have private ceremonies, those private ceremonies absolutely can misunderstandings about Freemasonry because there are some people who feel like they have to know everything. And if they don't know everything, they automatically assume the most negative response. Yes, Pikachu, I agree with that. So they don't have to take accountability. I do think I met Masons or not Masons, excuse me. I met people who are anti-Masons. However, when I look at their own life, it seems to be going pretty terribly. And instead of taking responsibility for their own life going pretty terrible, or pretty terribly, I should say, they have this tendency to blame Masons, blame governments, blame other organizations, blame other groups. So that's unfortunate, but that does happen. That is true. I mean, I think not every uninitiated, but there is a certain type of person for whom, if anything is hidden, they feel like they have to know it, and if they don't know it, they automatically assume the most negative. Oh, there's been Masonic. Hello, Hanu Rosalie. Please hit like and subscribe. I mean, there was the Morgan affair. That was a big Masonic controversy. There's been controversies in policing, distrust of police officers who are Freemasons. So that stuff does happen. Hello, Nico. Please hit like and subscribe. But, I mean, again, it's one of those situations where just because Masons have acted badly in history, and there have been Masons who've acted badly in history, it's unfortunately human nature, that doesn't mean that Freemasonry is bad or evil. It just means individual Masons are humans. Some act good, some act bad. Hopefully, though, if you're following Masonic philosophy, Masonic ideas, Masonic understandings, you are not going to act in a negative way. Minotaur, what's P2? Oh, is that out of Italy, right? If I recall correctly. Well, humans are the darkness and the light, right? That's our nature, is to be both the darkness and the light in humanity. Unfortunately, we have the capacity for both. Hey, food gifts is great, Dad. I think, we in Freemasonry talk a lot about being charitable. There is amazing ways, though. There's amazing like when we come to talk about charity, there's so many different ways that we can be charitable in our lives. It's unfortunate that sometimes we put too much of a focus on, donating money, which is a great thing to do if you can, but you can be charitable with, food donations. You can be charitable with your time. You can be charitable with your efforts. You can be charitable with forgiveness. You can be charitable with understanding. You can be charitable towards yourself as well as to others, right? There's a lot of different ways to be charitable, and it's really and incredibly important. Um, yeah, I don't know a lot about P2. I've heard of it. I could have swore it was something out of Italy, but it's something I know very little about. Um, yeah, I mean, no, for MK, that's pretty much what it is. Freemasons are a club. They're just a really old club and it's a club that speaks to me in a way other clubs don't. But maybe if I had grown up differently in a different environment, maybe I'd grown up, let's say, in the South of America, like the American South, like Texas, whatever, maybe I would have joined a shooting club and would have got the same feeling from that as I do from being a Freemason. Um, Ashton Big Boss. Do I believe in Jesus? I'm not Christian myself, but Freemasons, it's not a religion. I know many Freemasons, though, for whom their supreme being is Jesus. What's up? 7736 Joaquin Bernal. I'm going to hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for being here. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Okay, so no 4M. Like, again, shooting guns, it's never been anything that's interested me, so I had no interest in joining a shooting club. But again, that says more about me than about guns or sportsmen, right? That's why I always say Freemasonry is not special. What's special is the connection that the Freemason has with his lodge and with this thing called Freemasonry. It's something about the individual Mason that speaks to them. In the same way, when it comes to Freemasonry, when it comes to clubs or groups, it's about it's not about the club or group itself, it's about the individual and how they respond and how they react to it. Freemasonry is not going to speak to everybody, but for those to whom it does speak, it's going to matter a lot. It's going to be a big deal. Yes, I got a big forehead, prison, but you can still hit the like and subscribe button. Um, I don't know what 3-1 Atlas is, but I mean, if it's technology, I've never been afraid of technology. Jesus or Muhammad, I mean, for me, neither, because I wouldn't describe myself as Christian nor Muslim, but for either or, if it brings a person faith and happiness and help in their life, then whether you follow Muhammad or whether you follow Jesus, good for you. I'll not judge either. Um, if you can tell me, Joaquin, what it is, I'll see if I can track it down and find it. Um, Thank you, Minotaur, for being here. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to visit your lodge. I'd love to visit Sweden. I think it'd be incredible. Yes, Josh, I got a big forehead. Please hit like and subscribe. Um, okay, many Freemasons would agree with you, but Freemasonry is not a religion. We have Masons of all different faiths. Shiv, I'm from Canada, Windsor, Ontario. 3-1 Atlas is a comet. Well, I think it'll be beautiful then to look at it in the sky, unless it hits the Earth, which would suck. I mean, yeah, George Washington famously certainly doesn't happen pretty much. Certainly doesn't happen a lot in 2025 as compared to previous times in history. I have known a couple Masons who've served in political offices, but primarily at the city council level or really, smaller levels for whatever it's worth. Thank you, Ashton. I mean, I don't think we have such a thing as planetary defense systems. I think we're going to be okay. I think if there was a comet heading to Earth about to destroy us, we would hear about it much sooner. Another great example, Dad, of being charitable, right? There's a million different ways to be charitable. That's another great example. Creating knitted scarves. Actually, I'm going to show this to you. Hold on just 1 second. During COVID, a lot of lodges were struggling. A lot of masons were struggling because we couldn't meet in person. So a brother's wife actually hand knitted a whole bunch of these very cool stockings for us, which I thought was awesome. And so yeah, hand knitted scarves are wonderful, and I'm sure they're greatly appreciated. Okay, Shiv, welcome from India. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. That would be very kind of you. Jack Queen, actually, there's this quote I once heard, and I can't remember who said it, but they said, I don't think people should have beliefs. I think it's better to have ideas. It's easier to change an idea than a belief. Who said that? Kevin Smith, was it? Who said it is easier to change ideas than beliefs? It does sound a bit like Hitchens. Okay, it was Rufus. It was Chris Rock in the 1990 film Dogma. The quote is, I think it's better to have ideas. You can change an idea. Changing a belief is trickier. I actually really like the movie Dogma. I'll take it, Nick Jonas. Diploma lettering. Riggs 219. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. Unless I kept... Oh, I did keep it here. So when you say diploma lettering, I'm assuming you mean diploma lettering like this. Right? Which I think is great lettering. It's not great for correspondence or official documents, right? You would never want to use that type of lettering for a letter like this, which is an official document, but it's still really cool to see nonetheless. The idea of a higher power, yeah, I mean, in Freemasonry, for better or worse, we do always say you must believe in a supreme being. Maybe you must have an idea of a supreme being in some ways would be a better idea or better term. Pretty much more of a heading. Yeah, I think decorative fonts like that are great for headings. They're not great for other correspondence. Oh, absolutely, Dad. And not just charity without knowing, but I mean, even how lucky are we without knowing it, right? Like I didn't choose my parents. I didn't choose where I was born or when I was born. I mean, I was born with no legs. My legs are a bit sore, speaking of the legs I have. Had I been born 100 years ago in a different country to a different set of parents, my life would have looked incredibly different. That's not charity per se, but it's something that we need to keep in mind, right? How lucky we are and how very little of our life we actually get to choose, which I hope would make us more grateful for the things that we have. I don't miss lake effect snow at all. I was in Bogota, Colombia, visiting some Masonic lodges. They were beautiful. And no snow, nice weather. It wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold, it was perfect. To go from that to Chicago, where it was absolutely freezing, that was interesting, put it that way. That was a very interesting experience to go through. I remember I flew from Chicago to, so I flew, how to work, what was I saying? I flew from Bogota, Colombia to Fort Lauderdale to Chicago. Getting off that plane in Chicago was nuts. It was the coldest day of the year. It was absolutely freezing. I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna, I don't know if I'm gonna make it or not. It was freezing cold. So yeah, but it was still worth it. I love Chicago, greatest country, greatest, in my opinion, Chicago is the greatest city in the world. I adore Chicago, and I adore Glenview as well, so. I'd believe it. At least it'd be dry. It'd be like a dry cold, you know? Heather, thank you for being here. Please hit like and subscribe. That's a really interesting question, could you? I don't know. What would happen? What would happen to Freemasonry if there was found undeniable evidence that no higher power exists? That's not a nonsensical question. That's just a really interesting question. I don't know. I mean, the term higher power is defined so broadly that I suspect Freemasonry would be okay because we define, like for me, right, my definition of higher power is the rational nature of the universe as expressed through mathematical equations. So that will never be proved to not exist. If it ever were to be proven, for example, that I don't know, like all religions were false. I mean, I think Freemasonry would be okay because I think higher power or supreme being is defined so broadly that it would be okay. It might cause a personal type of crisis for those Masons who are specifically religious and believe in a supreme being, but that would create a crisis of faith between them and their religious beliefs, not between them and the craft, at least in my opinion. Thank you for asking me to have a blessed day. Have a blessed day yourself as well. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. Who knows? Heather, you're getting kind of weird. You need to calm down a little bit. Who knows? I don't think it could ever happen either. I don't know. I don't know for sure what could or couldn't happen. I guess what I'd say is I don't think it would cause a crisis within Freemasonry. Yeah, it's been colder than -40. I remember a few times in Winnipeg it got colder than -40. But hey, you survive. You make it. You'll be fine. We're gonna be okay. It makes us tough, right? Cold winters make us tough. I hope everybody is doing well. Prime raise. Yes, there are weird people everywhere. You get a lot of them on YouTube. It's fine. You just have to accept the fact that you're going to get a lot of weird people on YouTube. It's okay. Makes things more interesting. Fishing Planet Terra, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I hope that you're doing well. Anybody who's here, who's new, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and if there's anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry. We're done our main topic today, which was fonts and why we as Freemasons should pay attention to the type of fonts that we are using. For the record, the consensus is the best font to use for Masonic documents, correspondence, and minutes is E.B. Garamond. So take that for whatever it's worth. You do not. I mean, I don't even know what it means to sponsor a Mason. I'm not sure what that means. Freemasons don't take sponsorships. I take sponsorships on this channel to help grow the channel. So please consider a super chat of just 99 cents. That would be greatly appreciated. But you Masons themselves don't get sponsorships, so I'm not sure what is meant by that. Mal, don't do that. Don't smoke crack. It's bad for you. It's going to lead to nothing good. Okay, notification warning. But before I do that, how about you hit the like and subscribe button? That would be wonderful. We're just going to wait and hang out, see who else jumps in the chat to say hello. No particular topics anymore. Now it's just chatting and hanging out, waiting to see who joins. Tomorrow at 1, I'm going to be streaming for a few minutes from Superstore on Dougal Avenue, where I will be doing the Salvation Army bell ringing. And then I'm going to be streaming on my personal channel, actually the bell ringing itself, encouraging people to come see me, say hello, donate, all that good stuff. We are not rulers of the earth. I'm very sorry to report. We can barely rule what we're going to have for dinner, let alone what we're going to have for how we're going to rule the earth. So you'd be extremely disappointed if that's what you think. Why don't we rule the earth? Because that's not our goal. Freemasonry isn't about ruling anything, certainly not ruling the earth. I would argue, what Freemasonry is about is trying to make the world a better place through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. But that's not the same thing as desiring to rule the earth. We're not a political organization. So it's not our goal to rule anything. I've known Masons who had problems with both drugs and alcohol, because again, we are human beings and we have all the same weaknesses and problems as humans. Whether they were addicted at the time of joining, I have no idea. My hope would be if there were evidence to come to light that they were addicted to drugs or alcohol when they were considering joining, that their application would be not even voted down, but just returned to them without a vote. And, to tell them, I think you need to focus on getting yourself better and getting yourself healthier, and then coming back to Lodge. Because if you're addicted to something, you're probably not going to be able to focus on Freemasonry or anything else in your life at the moment. So whether those men I've known were addicted at the time of joining, or it just got worse over time. But I have known Masons who had real problems with drugs and alcohol. And sometimes it actually led to some really, really unfortunate, tragic outcomes, despite the efforts of some brothers around them. Yes, it is wide, Florida. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I was Maverick. I was the third person. It was Nicolas Cage, his sidekick, and me. They just cut all my scenes out of the movie, which made me very sad. Nice. Police officer with a square and compass on it. Good. I think it's awesome when people show off that they're Freemasons, whether they're police officers or anything else. By the way, I like the movie National Treasure. I haven't watched it in such a long time. I'd like to watch it again. But National Treasure is a great movie. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for being here. And I hope everybody is doing very well. Florida, that's just like what they say on YouTube, and not on this YouTube channel. I've been a Mason for 20 years. I've never sold my soul or never been requested to sell my soul to the devil nor to anyone else. That's not what Freemasonry is about. And if people are telling you that's what Freemasonry is about, they are lying to you. Where do mason jars come from? I don't know, but it's not Masonic. I think it's the name of the person who invented the jar. Was like Fred Mason or something. I could be wrong, but I think that's where it comes from. You know, you would think that we, though, as Freemasons, would take advantage of the connection in the name by, like, I don't know, creating a mason jar with a square and compass on it and selling them. You would think, if we were smart, get some more branding out there. There is no, so fishing, planet, Terra, there is no single or the truth to Freemasons. Freemasonry does not have a single truth. Rather, every Mason must decide for himself or herself what their personal truth is as it relates to Freemasonry. For me, the truth of Freemasonry is that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Well, Florida, that is not the case. That is not what Freemasonry is about. Freemasonry is a civic organization. It's a civil society. It's a fraternity in many cases, but there's no selling of the souls. Okay, so there we go. John Landis Mason. Maybe he was a Freemason. That'd be incredible. It would be Mr. Mason, as a Mason, created the mason jar. But to my knowledge, he wasn't. I mean, there was Freemasonry that did exist in the 1700s. My suspicion is during that time, they probably wore wigs in their lodge meetings in the same way they wore wigs in public. So the Illuminati, Florida, the Illuminati was formed in 1777 by a fella named Adam Weishaupt. He was a Freemason, but he left Freemasonry because he did not like the craft. He thought it was A, too expensive, and B, he thought it was not esoteric enough. So he created his own thing. It really ceased to exist by the early 19th century. I mean, it still floats around. There are people who call themselves Illuminati and claim to be Illuminati, but it doesn't really exist in any organized manner or fashion, for whatever it's worth. Well, how about you give me a 10-pound donation on the super chat? Florida, no worries. Florida, I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. Oh, so he was a Freemason. So maybe he called it the Mason jar in honor of both his name and Freemasonry. It is not all the same, Florida. A lot of people think it's all the same for a lot of different reasons. A lot of it is scammers online will contact people and they'll combine the term Mason and Illuminati. I've got messages from people saying, join the Masonic Order of the Illuminati for whatever reason. It's a lot of scammers using these terms interchangeably to either A, cast dispersions on Freemasonry, or B, to try to get people to send them money to join this super fancy elitist group that doesn't exist. Ark Shaw, well, that is not the case, but thank you for being here. By the way, Ark Shaw, anybody who's not done so yet, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. I'd very much appreciate it. I am at over 3,000 subs. I'm at currently 3,053, which is a great honor indeed. James Grayton, hi, love from Carol in England. I was just in England. Wonderful place, wonderful people. Um, it's wonderful to see you here. We are not. We are not trying to take over the world in any fashion. We're not trying to take over the world by having famous people brainwash you, nor are we trying to take over the world in any other fashion. That's not what Freemasonry is about. Um, Sorry to disappoint. Well, I'm focused on money because while Freemasonry is free, my rent is not. And my hope is to use this channel to turn my to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession, right? That's the goal. And so super chats help with that, as does liking, as does subscribing, as does sharing, as does following me on other social media sites, etc., etc. Tinfoil hat wearer with this emoji. Sorry, tinfoil hat wearer. I did not see your last comment. I don't know to what you're referring. Oh, tinfoil hat wearer. My square compass. I just want to say I hope you succeed at everything you put your mind to. You are a winner and a wonderful human being. Merry Christmas to you, brother. Thank you. That's incredibly kind of you, tinfoil hat wearer. And Merry Christmas to you as well. And I greatly appreciate the kind words. Let me know if you have anything happening in your life that you're excited for. So we don't do that because we are speculative Masons. I can't build anything to save my life, whether it be out of cinder blocks or stone or carpentry for that matter. I am not a builder. Having said that, thank you so much. We build in a metaphorical sense. We build a better community. We build a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Thank you. I like this sweater. It's very comfortable. I know I got a big forehead, Kelly. You can hit the like and subscribe button, by the way. Thank you, tinfoil hat. That's very kind of you. Honestly, at this stage, it's mostly just taking questions. Earlier in the stream, I talked about the best type of font to use in Freemasonry when it comes to official correspondence, minutes, even a dues card. And the consensus is Garamond. We as Freemasons should be paying attention to everything, including, the type of fonts we use in our documents. That stuff matters. Yeah, but there'll be a whole new batch. I'm not 33rd. I am a 18th degree Scottish Rite Mason. Right now, I'm so busy, I have no interest in going up to the 33rd degree or even trying to get there. The highest I can go without invitation is 32nd, but I'm so swamped. I'll look at joining 33rd later, or joining 32nd later. Jim Rat, Freemasonry does not follow any specific religion. Freemasonry is not a religion, nor does it follow a religion. Rather, every Mason believes in a supreme being. That's between him and his faith. So we have Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, indigenous Freemasons, all different types. And I think that's one of its greatest strengths by far and away. Well, I don't know because I'm not a 33rd degree Mason. Maybe when I become one and they tell me all the world's secrets, I'll share them on here. Who knows? My grandma does voodoo. I mean, to my understanding, I don't know a lot about voodoo. But to my understanding, those who practice voodoo believe in a supreme being, so I suppose that means they could join Freemasonry, but I would have to know a little bit more about the faith and about the religion to say for sure. Jesus Freak 316. Austin 316 says, I just kicked your ass. Gotta mention the professional wrestling spot there. Yeah, right. I fell for that deception. It's satanic. I stay away from Freemasonry. Well, I'm very sorry that you consider Freemasonry to be a deception. I've been a Freemason for 20 years and I genuinely love it. Let me know what it is about Freemasonry that you consider to be a deception. Maybe I can do my best to dissuade you of that, or at least get your perspective as to why you consider it to be a deception. And because at this point we're just hanging out and chatting, no more specific topics for the day. Actually, tomorrow what I think I'll do is I'll do a stream about, maybe I'll do a stream a little bit about charity and what we within Freemasonry can consider to be charitable. I don't know what 33rd and 1/3 means. I know a few things about the 33rd degree. I've spent enough time with 33rds, that's for sure. Um, if there was anything nefarious, I believe I would have seen it based on my pretty extensive experience and researches within the craft. Um, Not saying I know everything, I definitely don't, but I know enough based on my experiences to be confident in my judgments. Well, so there's a few different answers to that, Florida. First, I've used this metaphor before. We're all dipping from the same well. So, what that means is a lot of symbols that people consider to be Masonic might actually predate Freemasonry, but that Freemasonry adopted when developing its own symbolism and rituals. So, for example, one symbol that is often associated with Freemasonry is the all-seeing eye or the eye of providence. The all-seeing eye, or is a symbol that has existed in one form or another for millennia. It very much predates Freemasonry. When Freemasons were developing their own symbols and their own symbolic communications, they, borrowed it, stole it, paid homage to it, but it's not an exclusively Masonic symbol. It's belonged to many different groups and organizations. Same thing with the pyramids. So first of all, not everything that is considered a Masonic symbol began as a Masonic symbol. Rather, the Masons, when developing their symbolism, borrowed it for their purposes. And also, because Freemasonry was so ubiquitous, especially in the 1920s, but certainly by the 1850s, many groups started, when many groups were starting, they then borrowed from Masonic symbolism when creating their own rituals and ceremonies. The Mormon Church, the Young Farmers of America, the Odd Fellows, Free Gardeners, all of these groups, came after Freemasonry. Many of them were founded by Freemasons. And it's like why, good poets borrow, great poets steal. Good groups borrow, great groups steal. Why, instead of reinventing the wheel, if you have this thing that works well for Masons, why not just borrow some of these concepts and symbols and apply them to our own groups and our own organizations? But that made it seem like there's way more Masonic symbolism in the world than there actually was, because so many later groups just borrowed from Freemasons when creating their own organizations. It's kind of like asking, did the Greeks infiltrate Rome because so much of Roman mythology is borrowed from the Greeks? Well, no, it's just the Romans were, you could argue, being lazy or being smart or whatever term it is, and just borrowed from the Greeks what worked well for them in terms of their mythology. A lot of groups did that with Freemasonry, and Freemasonry did that with a lot of groups. So it made Masonic symbols seem more ubiquitous than they actually were. But also, there was a time when Freemasonry was incredibly ubiquitous. In the 1920s and the 50s, you had 59 million Masons. So because you had so many Masons, that means you're going to get a lot of rings, a lot of coins, a lot of bumper stickers, a lot of Masonic buildings with the square and compasses, and the numbers game, you're just going to start to see it a lot more places. Also, because, when it comes to Freemasonry, because it was so ubiquitous and everybody kind of has an understanding of the symbols, even if they don't know exactly what they mean, they have some type of recognition of them. What that means is a lot of movies, directors, actors will give the character some type of Masonic ring or pendant or symbol just to give that character a little bit of flavor and a little bit of, something interesting about him. Like famously, Jake Gyllenhaal in Prisoners, the movie, he wore a Masonic ring as Detective Loki. He never commented on it in the movie. He still hasn't commented about it and will not confirm nor deny whether his character was a Mason in interviews. But he wore a Masonic ring because he just wanted to give his character a little bit of something unique, something interesting, a potential backstory on which people could speculate. So that's why it is the case. MG Slonut, I wouldn't use the term occultist knowledge, but we have many symbols from many cultures. That's 100% the case. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. Why should we? If the symbols and the lessons contained within those symbols work well enough for Mesopotamian cultures, we're going to use them for ours. It is not satanic, Jesus freak. William Bagdenoff. I do not know what it means to have a gay mouth. That's a weird thing to say, but I hope you hit the like and subscribe button anyways. The Masons and Shriners both regard Lucifer as the wise source of wisdom. So, Jesus freak, you are actually referring not to Masons, but to Luciferians. I do understand that there are Luciferians who are Masons. Albert Pike was a Luciferian. I'm not one. I've never met any Luciferians who are Freemasons, but that's not what Freemasons nor Shriners necessarily believe. That's a Luciferian idea. Freemasons, they have their own beliefs. Each Freemason believes a different thing. I've sat in lodge, including with 33rd degree Masons who are Catholic, who are Christian, who are Muslim, who don't have any particular religious faith, who are Hindu or Sikh. So, you're speaking, even the Luciferian metaphor, this idea of Lucifer as a Prometheus figure, it's interestingly enough, there is no confirmation in the Bible that the snake in the garden was actually Satan. Excuse me. A lot of people historically view the snake in the garden as being a different entity from the biblical Satan. And I'm getting way over my skis because I'm not a biblical scholar, but it's a fascinating area of topic. Hello, Hakim LBB. Please hit like and subscribe. Roughly 400, 500 years. The all-seeing eye is older than that, Brother Courtney. The eye of providence, or the idea of the all-seeing eye does go back further than that. MG Slonut, there's a lot of history within Freemasonry. So there shouldn't be class intermingling between lodges. I'm not going to say there are some lodges, especially in some parts of Europe and Africa, where they charge such a heavy amount to join. The dues are so expensive. It's almost a rich man's club by default, which I don't think is comfortable. But within a lodge, there is no class divisions. At least there shouldn't be. I've known Masons who were, very well-off lawyers, and who were other Masons who were janitors, who were part of the same lodge. And in fact, if the janitor was the worshipful master, the janitor had more authority in the lodge than the lawyer, than the rich person. So, where does it say that, Jesus freak? I'm not disagreeing with you because I'm not a biblical scholar, but to my understanding, at no point in the Bible originally did it ever claim that the serpent was in fact Satan. like Lucifer, the fallen angel. What about the checker? Having said that, I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm not Christian myself. I believe in a supreme being, but I would not describe myself as Christian. So I don't really have a dog in this fight, except to say I know that Albert Pike was a Luciferian, but he spoke for himself. He did not speak for Freemasonry. Um, Florida, what about the checkerboard floor? Well, the checkerboard floor can mean a couple of different things. It depends on the jurisdiction and the ritual. It can either be a lesson in temperance and not to become either too presumptuous when things are going well, nor to become too despondent when things are going poorly, but to accept the fact that life has its ups and downs and we have to try to maintain a sense of calmness at all times or a sense of temperance. Or it can be reference the division of good and evil and kind of how there's both good in the world and evil in the world, and how there is, we want to try to remember to focus on the good part of the world, if that makes any sense. I'm from Canada. Who do I worship? So I don't necessarily worship anyone. My supreme being, I believe that the supreme being, as I understand it, is the rational understanding of the universe as expressed through mathematical, or how do I put this? I believe that the supreme being is best understood as the rational nature of the universe as expressed through geometric and mathematical principles. Sergio with the earth, please hit like and subscribe. Yes, we are very nice, but a lot of people are nice. Not if you're in the northern jurisdiction, it's not Jesus freak, that's for sure. In Canada, you can make the argument that that's the case. In the southern jurisdiction, probably. Not in the northern jurisdiction. And by the way, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is not Freemasonry. Freemasonry is much broader than Scottish Rite. Much, much broader. There's York Rite, there's Craft, there's Order of Women Freemasons, there's Shrine. Not a ton of it right now, Sergio. Serious. Hello, bro. Thank you for being here. I've not found that to be the case. In my experience, Americans are often very polite. I think that's more of a stereotype. Is that a good thing? Miserably yours? Please hit like and subscribe, by the way. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'll take it. I think Chad's a good thing, right? I don't quite know what that means. There's racism everywhere, unfortunately. Canadians are not necessarily immune to kind of racist or racism, unfortunately. I wish we were, don't get me wrong, but well, I mean, Florida. So can I just walk into a, I mean, yes, but so I never advise just walking to a lodge and knocking on the door and expressing an interest in joining. The reason being, you don't know if anybody will necessarily be there. I don't know if you have the schedule of their meetings, but also they might have something going on and might not have the time to talk to you in that moment. So my advice is always, if you are going to go knock on the Masonic door and express an interest in being a member, what you should do is write a letter, include on it your name and contact information. The name can be 3 or 4 words. 3 or 4 lines. I'm interested in joining Freemasonry. This is my name. This is my contact information. Please get in touch. That way, if you knock on the door and there's nobody there, you can leave the letter in the mailbox. If you knock on the door and somebody is there, but they're too busy to talk to you, you can give them the letter and it has the information to contact you. Or what you can do is call the lodge in advance or send them an email. Just because I did know one person who my old advice was always just go stop off and talk to them. He drove like 40 minutes out of his way to visit a Masonic lodge, and no one happened to be there. And he didn't have anything like a letter with him. So the simple answer is yes, you can go knock on the door and say hello, but make sure you have a letter with you so you're not wasting a trip, or email them in advance and set a time that you can talk to them. Whoa, Jesus freak. I don't, other people can confirm this on the stream. If people start talking to each other on the stream, I will start to block them. And that goes for both you, Jim Rat, and you, Jesus freak. Talk to me. Don't talk to each other. Anyway, the unseen world or spiritual world is full of mystery, some say. I tend to be very skeptical of the idea of the unseen world or spiritualism. I know a lot of Masons are very spiritual and love to be spiritual, and good for them. It's not really my thing. I try to be more rational and practical. This is my profession. I'm trying to make this my profession. I'm trying to turn my passion of Freemasonry into my profession. So please hit the like, subscribe, and super chat buttons. Well, Florida, there are dues that you have to pay. Usually, the cheapest set of dues I pay is $40 per year. The most expensive, $40 American. The most expensive is $275. However, this is really important. If the first thing they do is ask you for money or ask you for dues, they're scamming you. That's not how it works. There is an entire process that needs to take place before money is even brought up. They should tell you at the start how much it costs to join, but they should not ask for that money right away. First, they need to get to know you. You do an application. You meet with a board of 3. You visit them. They visit you. You get to know them. And then, if everything goes well and they vote to accept you and you have an initiation, at that point, they should ask you to bring a check with you to the lodge. But if they ever, if you knock on a door and the first thing they say is, you need to give us money, that's not how it works. That's a scam. John Green, I am a 18th degree Scottish Rite Mason, but I'm 3rd degree Master Mason. That's the degree that matters, is 3rd degree. Arthur, I would like you to hit the like and subscribe button. Okay, so $50 and $90 for Shrine. Okay, so that's on the lower end, at least for Blue Lodge. Like I said, my least expensive dues are $40 American. My most expensive is $175. A Mason tries to make the world a better place through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Well, I would say for the start, just go and talk to them and express your interest in joining. Worry about the money stuff after, because some lodges will forgive dues or commute dues. I can't promise. Every lodge has its own approach to that, but it's worth it to talk to them for a little bit. And that way also, at least you contacted them, express an interest. And if at any given point you do have the money to join, you've at least made contact, and that can help make things go a little bit smoother down the line. Thank you, Redder Than You. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. And we're just hanging out, waiting to see who jumps in the chat. I mean, my time? John, even that, not really the case, because you can join and never show up to lodge meetings in Canada. I mean, I guess what I had to offer them was an oath, amongst other things, being that I would never reveal the secrets of Freemasonry, and a willingness to give of my time, at least one meeting. And when I first joined, the dues were $100 plus $200 to join, so $300. That was it. I try to be. Well, it's not about what I get, right? It's not about necessarily what I like. every Freemason gets something different for being a Freemason. So, for example, one thing I get as being a Freemason is I feel closer to my grandfather. Now, on my dad's side, my grandfather died before I was born. I never met him, but he was a Mason. And so the fact that I am a Freemason, um, it makes me feel close to him in a way that I wouldn't otherwise. But that's something that's personal to me. A lot of Masons are joining for the first time. A lot of Masons get friendships they would not get otherwise. They meet people they would not meet otherwise. A lot of Masons get a chance to learn how to organize and run meetings. They get a chance to learn how to administer meetings. They develop more confidence in their public speaking ability. They develop better memorization skills. Some just get a meal after lodge and a chance to hang out with brothers, and they enjoy that. There are so many different reasons and so many different, you know, every Mason gets something different from the craft. That's a beautiful thing about it. But um, what I would say is the real reason to join Freemasonry is not for what you may get from it, but rather what you can contribute to it, or what you can contribute to the world through being a Freemason. There's also Florida. There's also a social safety net aspect of it. You know, if you were to ever lose your job, not be able to pay your rent, not be able to pay your mortgage, you know that there are Masons there who can support you, who can help you, who can give you benevolence to help you get through the rough time. If you're sick and in the hospital, there are people you can call to feed your cat. I've done that. I've relied on Masons to feed my cat while I'm away. You know, you just grow your social, you grow your social safety net and your capital, your social capital. So I hope that answered your question. Welcome, 33rd degree Freemason. Good for you. Hello, Alana. Alana, thank you for being here. It's happened, Jay Cohen Green. Hermetic principles have come up in like discussions and topics, but rarely. It's not really what we talk about very often. Um, yes, I got a big forehead. Please hit like and subscribe. Well, Masonry is not based on Hermes I don't even know who Hermes Trismegistus is. Freemasonry is based on stone Masonic guilds, right? You know, Hermeticism is the idea of hidden knowledge, but again, Freemasonry doesn't offer hidden knowledge. We have private ceremonies, but Freemasonry, it was founded based on stone masonry guilds in the 14th and 15th centuries. Now, Freemasonry borrowed from so many different things, it borrowed from Christianity, Judaism, the Muslim faith, Chinese mythology, Egyptian mysticism, Stoic philosophy. A lot of Enlightenment era stuff got in there. Primarily where it came from, though, is stone masonry guilds. But it did borrow some stuff from this idea of Hermeticism, this idea of hidden knowledge or esoteric knowledge. But you could argue every esoteric group in some form or another borrowed from the idea of Hermetics. Yes, traveling, I agree. I think every Mason, you are doing yourself a massive disservice if you're not traveling. I understand how hard it is, by the way, how hard it can be to travel. It's not cheap. People work, people have families. But if you're a Mason and you're not traveling, you are really limiting how much you'll get out of the Masonic experience. It's one of the best ways to grow in Freemasonry. Like just recently, I was in Brazil. I attended a third degree. It was really incredible because the entire degree took place in a language that I didn't speak, so I didn't understand a single word, and yet I understood everything that was happening. It was really incredible. So, if you can, travel, 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 travel. No, we do not know any world secrets. I mean, we know about esoteric Masonic private ceremonies and private secrets, but those have nothing to do with the world. Those are exclusive to Freemasonry. That's like, my bank account information is a secret, but um, that's not the world's secret. That's my secret. It doesn't belong to the world. Any secrets or private information that Freemasonry has belongs to Freemasonry, doesn't belong to the world. Um, how was it traveling to Egypt? Well, Jay Green, if I told you them, they wouldn't be Masonic secrets, would they? Or they wouldn't be Masonic private information. If you want to hear about those, you got to join. And that's true, Florida. At a certain point, I am, for better or worse, asking Masons to, in some ways, consider a leap of faith. Not Masons, but non-Masons, and trust, based on my experience and my demeanor and the way I act, that I'm coming at you and at Freemasonry from a good place. Now, you may disagree, and you're right. I think Jesus, wherever he is, Jesus freak disagrees, or maybe disagrees with my views on Freemasonry, but hopefully he recognizes I'm coming at it from a place of experience and knowledge, and at least I'm not coming across my information, I'm coming across it in a legitimate and honest way. I really want to visit Egypt. The pyramids would be incredible to see. Yeah, I mean Freemasonry is fine. That's a good way to put it. Some people love it. Some people join and it's not for them. Some people join it and find it fine. I'm very proud to be a Freemason. It touches me in a way that for a lot of other people it doesn't. But that's true of other things. That's true of music. My favorite song in the world is Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. Um, I've heard other people tell me that song is just fine. Um, but everybody decides that for themselves, whether they love it, hate it, think it's fine. For me, it's a passion, and hopefully through this channel, I can turn my passion into a profession. I've never been to Peru, but I want to go there. IXM, hello. A couple different significances. It depends on where you're at and what the jurisdiction is. But the way you can think about it best is the dichotomy between good and evil, and how we in life are always kind of on this balance where there's good and there's evil, and trying to turn ourselves to the good as much as we can. Um, I don't know what that means, 7068, but please hit the like and subscribe button. Yeah, Jim Rat, you're going to get yourself timed out if you're not careful. We don't talk to other people on the chat, we talk to me. Unless you want to give other people on the chat a compliment. You talk to me and you leave other people alone. I can handle myself fine. Jesus Freak is welcome to say whatever he so chooses. One Man and a Drone UK. I hope that you, man, and your drone will hit the like button and the subscribe button. Ice Dragon, I have no idea what that means. I don't know what Motionless in White is, but I'm sure it's a wonderful band. I don't think they do. I think that's a movie you're thinking of, Eddie. I think that's a movie that you're thinking of. Which actually, I remember liking that movie when I saw it. I thought it was pretty good. So there's that. Is it good? I'll check it out. Tell you what, Ice Dragon, if you share this stream, I will hit the like and subscribe button. I've never heard of, I don't know what Stargates are. The only thing I know of a Stargate is the movie Stargate and the television show. Both of which were great, but... Well, I mean, you're maybe a 33rd, but I've never heard of a Stargate. Again, outside of the movies, which I enjoyed, or the movie and the television show. Florida, who do people say Egypt is in the Grand Canyon? I have no idea, Florida. I've never heard that before. So any new merch, that's actually a good point. That's something I should bring up. Yes, if you are a Patreon member, and you are paying anywhere from $3 a month up to $50 a month, you are eligible for a special merchandise and correspondence. I've already sent it to a couple people, but I'm sending it to a couple more. I have 5 paid Patreon members at the moment. And one thing you will be getting, hold on just one second. I'm going to show it to you guys. I got it here, along with some other things. Oops. You're going to be getting this beautiful postcard, which I received from the Grand Lodge of Columbia's Masonic Museum, or Museum of Freemasonry in South America. So I haven't mailed them all out yet. I've mailed many of them out, but I'm going to get the rest mailed out this weekend. My hope is you'll get it before Christmas, but if not, I promise you it's on the way, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. So that's just one thing. And it's got a QR code on the back where you can learn more about Freemasonry in Bogota and Freemasonry in South America. Flora, my day is going very well. No, I will not, John Green or Jay Cohen Green. Joining my Patreon and being a member here does not make you a Freemason. It supports my channel and my efforts to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession, but that's it. Carl, this channel is about Freemasonry. Okay, Brother Courtney, once you do, like I said, you will be eligible to get one of these and a couple other items, which are interesting as well. So Carl, this channel is about Freemasonry. You didn't offend me, Jesus freak. I think you're incorrect, but you didn't offend me. Like I said, my view on it is I don't like it when people on this stream are talking to each other. At a certain point, that might get you a timeout. I tend not to ban on this one. But, just talk to me. And you are certainly right to have your opinions on Freemasonry, even though they are, based on my experiences, incorrect. It doesn't mean you can't express them on here. Carl, I mean, when you talk about don't think you're rich enough to be a Freemason, in my experience, Freemasonry is not that expensive. Now, I say that, I understand everybody can struggle. For some people, $40 in a year, plus, let's say, $100 initiation fee, can be too much. That absolutely is possible, and I get that. But in my experience, Freemasonry, relatively speaking, is not that expensive. It's usually cheaper than a Netflix subscription. But I also believe, Eddie, in what you're saying. It's possible to be, poor in the bank account but rich in the soul. Hopefully, we would focus on being rich in the soul. Sorry, Eddie. I gotta wonder. I'm not sure you might, if you are a 33rd, at least not part of a recognized Masonic lodge. Well, I'm a Canadian Mason as well, and as is my dad and both of my grandfathers. Although my dad's father was a Mason out of England. I've been lucky enough to attend Masonic meetings all around the world, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, all across the States, Canada, Manila, Philippines, and England. Never been to a meeting in Wales, UK, but I'd love to. Oh, the idea of being low level. Well, 33rd degree references a Scottish Rite degree, right? A third degree means you're a Master Mason and you've gone as high as you can within Freemasonry. After that, everything else are just honorifics, but they don't make you a higher level Mason. If that makes any sense at all. You can think of it almost as a specialization within Freemasonry, but doesn't make you a higher Freemason. Philip, I'm sorry you saw a lot of sick shit. First of all, I'm not sure if you necessarily grew up in Freemasonry. You could have grown up in clandestine lodges. which is not Freemasonry. You need to be careful. A lot of times people will think they're part of Freemasonry or seeing Freemasonry, and what they're seeing is in fact clandestine lodges. Um, well, I would say to get your third degree, that's your black belt. To get a 33rd degree would be like getting a special award from the dojo for like most attendance or something. It's like an honorific. But in terms of skills and abilities, it's the third degree that matters. In the Scottish Rite, which is a branch of Freemasonry in terms of what the specialization is. Hello, Jeanette from Canada. I'm from Canada as well. I love it. Greatest country in the world. In part because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. Are you now, or have you ever been, a Freemason? What you just said reminded me of McCarthyism. I am now, and I have been a Freemason, and proud of it. The Windsor, Ontario. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, but currently live in Windsor, Ontario. Fair enough, Carl. I'll give you that. Everybody, I truly believe everybody should believe that their country is the best country, and everybody else should respect that belief. It's kind of like, giving out world's best dad t-shirts. Every kid should think he has or she has the best dad, and also respect the fact that every other kid should feel the same way. Liam, I guess Liam is saying America is the greatest country in the world. Fair enough. I don't agree with you on that one. For me, it's Canada, but if you're from America, you should feel that way. I always say Canada is the greatest country in the world, in part because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. Jeanette, I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. Liam, same thing. Are you saying you're the are you saying your dad is the sovereign grand commander of the Supreme Council? I mean, I know the Supreme Council in Canada. I love the Hamilton Scottish Rite Hall. Some people call it Scottish Rite Cathedral, whatever you want to call it. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. A lot of movies and stuff has been filmed there. I do not worship Lucifer, nor do Freemasons worship Lucifer. Every Freemason will have his own view of whom the Grand Architect is, based upon his own faith and belief. So for me, when I think of the Grand Architect, I think of math equations, which I know sounds very weird. But that's my view on it. A lot of people, when they use the term Grand Architect, will think of Jesus. A lot will think of Allah. A lot will think of indigenous faiths and nature. Well, but I mean, there are a lot of neighbors in the world. I'm saying we've got the best one. Canada is the greatest country in the world because we have the best neighbor in the world. If, I lived in, I don't know, France, I could say, France is the greatest country in the world because you have the greatest neighbors in the world, and talk about Spain or whatever it is. I'm just very happy with the neighbor that we have. I love traveling to the States. Not too happy with the political system or the political leadership there right now. Not a huge fan of Donald Trump, but that's okay. Politics change. Relationships between countries hopefully remain like stone, solid forever. Could I give us a history of natives in Canada and their gender? I mean, I cannot, because I'm not an expert on that stuff by any means, other than to say it was absolutely tragic what happened to natives in Canada. And it's possible for me to believe both. It's possible for me to both believe that Canada is the greatest country in the world, and I love it, and to be grateful for being here, and to believe that what happened to our native Canadians was an absolute tragedy. So, there you go. Yes, Greenland. Canada is very beautiful. We got some beautiful, history, beautiful parks, beautiful lands, beautiful people, beautiful everything. I 100% agree with that. Well, Spirit of Justice, for what it's worth, based on our researches and studies, the best type of font to use in Masonic documents, specifically minutes, correspondence, and dues cards, is E.B. Garamond. That is the type of font that is easiest to read, that best conveys professionalism, that best conveys timeliness, and that best, achieves the desired professional look for such documents. So there you go. I wouldn't say that, Eddie. We're pretty tough. I like Old English font. I wouldn't use it for Masonic documents, though. Little Timmy, big money. Yes, I got a big forehead. You can hit the like and subscribe button, though. We do like poutine. Poutine is delicious. Thank you, Brother Courtney. You are going to be getting a letter soon. I believe that I have your information, your address. If you've moved or changed it, obviously don't put it on here, but shoot me off a message. You can do it through the Patreon app or through Instagram. Just let me know your current, your address, right? When you're signing up, if you can, always try to add your address so I know where to mail your special items. Garamond? Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can do that. That's a good idea, actually. Let me see if I can. All right. Okay, perfect. I can't send you cheese curds. So this, hold on just 1 second. So that is EB Garamond font. Actually, what I'll do is I'll do a, so apparently that Spirit is the best font to use for official correspondence. I mean, maybe I don't understand it. Does anybody truly understand it? I know to what you're referring. Like, hold on just 1 second. I came back. So, like, I'm just trying to get my past masters jewel. Stuff is falling. Here it is. So obviously, right, this is the 47th problem of Euclid. 3, 4, 5. Pythagoras, a squared equals b squared equals c squared. For me, I've always viewed this and these ideas as, again, my supreme being, in some ways you could argue is represented as the 47th problem of Euclid and the rational nature of the universe as expressed through these geometric ideas. I also truly believe that when it comes to Freemasonry, we are able to derive moral lessons from geometry, as did some of the greats of history, such as Abraham Lincoln. So, sacred geometry, and I know about that stuff. Do I understand it fully? I don't know. I think I do, but I'm always open to the idea that there's much less I know than I'm willing to, when it comes to things like sacred geometry or geometry, we're always learning new things. I'm not comfortable with saying we've got it completely figured out yet. And anybody who does say they got it completely figured out, I'm always very suspicious of. Do you play cards or dominoes? Sometimes after lodge, the guys will play some cards or dominoes. I've seen different lodges around the world when I've traveled where after they'll play some cards or hang out or do whatever. Yes, RIP for EB Garamond. What is life, guys? I have no idea. One of my favorite quotes is somebody said, life is a vacation from non-existence. Now, I don't think that's necessarily true, but I did really like that quote. Seems like a pretty terrible dude, Genghis Khan. I mean, you do have to judge history, I think, on different standards. I'm somebody who loves Julius Caesar, and, you could argue he was as vicious. And, I don't think he killed as many people, but killed a lot of people. as Genghis Khan. And if I love Julius Caesar, I guess part of me should, you know, support Genghis Khan. But, you know, my concerns about his actions. Thoughts on quantum mechanics? Well, I think pretty soon, hopefully, we'll find a way to combine quantum mechanics with relativity, and then we'll have at least some type of general unified theory of everything. They were not too evil to hope. They were not. They were created out of stone mason guilds in the 15th and 16th century. I think we have the required wisdom to be responsible for safeguarding the code of life. I don't know what the code of life means, actually. I think we have the requisite wisdom or the required wisdom to understand the universe and to make decisions based on that understanding. It's one of my favorite parts about being a human is my ability to understand things. Who has the power to influence them? Tell us history of French versus British. Again, not a historian. I know some very basics about it, but I wouldn't be comfortable talking about that on this stream because I don't know enough about it. Why is the power? Well, first of all, Freemasons never had as much power as people like to think. Freemasonry had a lot of numbers and a lot of people, but that didn't equate to political or any other type of power. In some ways, you could argue it equated with economic power, in that if your Masonic Lodge has, 5,000 members and you're in a small town, then you may want to join the Masonic Lodge to, help your business, whatever it is. That could happen. But certainly the numbers have been declining, and the numbers have been declining quite a bit. There's a lot of different reasons for that, but I would suggest looking at this book called Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. He talks about not just the numbers declining in Freemasonry, but the numbers declining in civic engagement overall, which is affecting not just Freemasons. So, I mean, to a certain extent, any group that has a sufficient number of people can't help but be influential. But, in some ways, I do wish Freemasonry was more influential than it is in 2025, because I love Freemasonry. I think that our philosophies and ideas can help to make the world a better place. But the kind of idea that Freemasonry was some type of greatly influential group is greatly overstated. I mean, 5K is a bit much, but honestly, there were Masonic lodges where, you could have thousands of members and it wasn't that big of a deal, especially back in the day. In Ontario in 1920s, you had over 100,000 Masons. Now we're down to less than 30,000. So not everyone in NASA is a Freemason. In fact, the vast majority are not. And space is neither fake nor gay. Space cannot be gay because gay is a sexual orientation. Space is a region of the universe, the biggest region of the universe. Liam, I don't believe that to be the case. And I'm, think that's crazy. We're going to be ending this stream shortly, but thank you everybody who's joined thus far. It is truly, truly appreciated. Nicholas Romita, welcome. I don't know what there is to say about that other than it's an incredible tragedy. I hope people find the help that they need before these tragic events occur, either to them or to their family members. So that's what I'd say. It's an incredible challenge. Nam, that is definitely not true. Freemasons are not dealing drugs of any sort, nor are they flooding anywhere with any drugs. I don't think he was. I've never heard that he was. I mean, I don't know for sure. I recently saw Rob Reiner in The Bear, which is one of my favorite TV shows. So it's a shame. I liked his character a lot too. So it's a real shame that he's no longer around. Well, I mean, whomever it is, to be passed away, to die in those tragic circumstances is incredibly sad. But you know, I remember seeing him in The Bear and loving that show and loving his character. Princess Bride, one of the greatest movies of all time. So it looks like Rob Reiner was not a Freemason, at least according to Google. I never heard that he was. So I don't believe aliens are real. I don't believe aliens exist. Um, or if they do, I don't believe they have ever existed. They've ever visited Earth. So take that for whatever it's worth. You are definitely not Eddie. It's great to have you here, though, but you are not God. Um, I think thinking that might be a little bit dangerous for people. Thank you, Liam. And thank you, everybody, for joining. All right, we're going to end this stream now. I will be back on at 1 a.m. tonight, this morning, and then 1 p.m. tomorrow as well. And then I will be streaming from my personal channel, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson, where I'm going to come at you from the Shoppers Drug Mart. Or sorry, not the Shoppers Drug Mart. I'm going to come at you from Dougal Superstore, where I will be doing the Salvation Army bell ringing, which I love doing every year. It's a tradition. I mean, I don't know what his particular reason were. I'm sure he fell into a bunch of conspiracy theory nonsense. However, there are a lot of people who target Freemasons, and that's a real shame. So it's happened a few different times. All right, guys, I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you for joining. Remember, the best type of font to use for Masonic correspondence is Garamond EB. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you all soon.